Ah, sorry about that. And yes, I know this music actually is copyrighted. I'm pretty sure. I discovered that today. Um, yeah, it's hard to find royalty-free music to use on Twitch and YouTube. But anyway, sorry for the ear-bleeding music. Yeah, so pretty simple today. Not like the last stream. Straight up Q&A. I'll be here for at least 2 hours. Unless questions dry up, I guess. So I'm going to open a can of a drink that I won't advertise, except when I drink from it inevitably in a minute, and start answering questions. So you want to start firing them at me, and I will try and answer them. How do you see 2021, and are there... Oh, hold on, I need to scroll. There we go. So if I scroll on chat, then it will stop auto-scrolling. How do you see 2021? Are there any major events you think are going to happen in the stock market, and how do you allocate against it? I mean, I think that realistically, probably the biggest events are behind us to some extent. We're likely to see a lot going on with lockdowns kind of continuing, and obviously the vaccine getting rolled out, and that will play a big impact. And of course, I guess the main thing we'll be looking at is economic policy and fiscal policy in different regions, because COVID is expensive. And has been very expensive for a lot of countries. So really, it's going to be about watching, things like the budget in the UK and the first 100 days of Biden, stuff like that. So a lot of policy focused stuff, I think, is probably what's going to be important to look at. But apart from that, I don't really see any really substantial events. Obviously, a lot of people think there's going to be a crash in 2021. I don't think so. I don't think there's much evidence really to support that. There are obviously some overvalued stocks, but I don't think that they're overvalued to an extent that is really dangerous. So, being invested in you since early 2017, just want to say thanks for all your hard work. Well, thanks for saying thanks, I guess. What's about your thoughts about gold in 2020? Well, 2020 is over now. I don't trade gold very much, so not that much really. I mean, I'm still pretty confident that I'm assuming you mean 2021, but I'm pretty confident that Bitcoin is really taking a lot of the kind of limelight away from gold and will continue to do so over the coming year. So again, there's not too much else to say than that. I'm not the biggest fan of gold. I think that if you're looking at gold as some sort of a hedge against inflation and stuff, which we could see, I think silver is a better option first of all, but also I think that cryptocurrencies could prove to be a better option too. What's your favorite food? I'm assuming you're asking that because I said it on my post on eToro. Probably Mexican food, just generally. I really like Mexican food. Aside from that, I don't know. How do you decide when it's time to sell a stock? Generally speaking, actually, I tend to close positions more because of opportunity cost than because it's hit some sort of a target. I'm not really a big believer in having targets necessarily. Obviously, sometimes it's useful, but really, sometimes I'll be waiting for earnings to get out of the way, and then I'll kind of wait and look at the technical analysis a bit to find a good exit point. But generally speaking, it's because I see a good opportunity elsewhere, and so I already know the kind of things that I'm looking at closing. And if the timing is good for the entry to the other position, then maybe I'll sacrifice the exit of the position that I'm in a little bit. But it varies really. There's no real rule to it. It's just a pretty fluid thing. Yeah. Jay is sus. Vote out Jay. Yeah, I am sus. Tino is someone that I played some Among Us with. You can see why I always pick orange, Timo, in my games because orange, obviously, no one asked it, but orange is my favorite color. As you can tell by my headphones, my chair, my desk is orange, my logo is orange. I like the color orange. In December 2020, legislation was passed that could remove Chinese companies from US exchanges. American regulators are not allowed to review their financial audits. Does this have any effect on the Chinese trades and investments, and why? Yeah, because filings to the SEC are much more. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily that they're actually that much better, but they're certainly a format that I'm more used to in terms of understanding companies and stuff. So it will affect it in terms of doing the research. Will be slightly harder. Um, but apart from that, not really. I always go for the Hong Kong auction when available with the stocks generally, um, because I mean, there's no real difference aside from the trading hours. I believe like Alibaba is an 8-to-1 ratio of stocks between Hong Kong and the US. So the price is different and stuff like that. But eToro has fractional shares, so it doesn't really matter. Um, yeah, I don't really see it as a big problem. I also don't think that Biden's going to be quite so harsh on China. Whether or not that'll actually filter through to the SEC, I don't know. But I'm actually really, really bullish on China at the moment. I think a lot of Chinese companies are very, very undervalued. So, uh, if I have to do a bit more work to kind of do my research, and maybe have a little bit less information available, then I guess that's just what comes with the territory. What's the weather like in Basingstoke? As Slug said, overcast. Yeah, pretty overcast. Uh, how do you think the new Biden administration will affect the markets? I think we've already seen how they're going to affect the markets. To be honest, they're going to be much more kind of proactive approach regarding COVID. They're going to also um, focus a lot on green energy and stuff. It will be good for weed stocks. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Migration is another thing. I think the trade war with China is pretty much over now. Um, yeah, it's just going to be more. US is going to be much more open towards other countries and stuff. We could see some sort of a clampdown on some of the major stocks, the major tech stocks, but I don't think it's as big a threat as everyone thinks. And also, I don't really invest in any of those stocks except for Microsoft currently. So, I'm not super concerned about it. I'll keep my stupid questions for the end of the stream. Yeah. Um, any books to learn about fundamentals? I actually did start reading one, but I never finished it. And I've forgotten what it's called. I've never read any books on investing and trading as such. I've read books on subjects that are related to it. A lot of economics books, politics books, um, uh, ideological kind of books, books about technologies like blockchain and stuff like that, but never really actually about trading and investing. So I'm not really the best person to ask. I'm afraid I can't really think of one off the top of my head. Um, I've heard that Market Wizards is pretty good, and a walk down Wall Street, a random walk down Wall Street, I think it's called. So maybe check those out. Um, what's your expect of you Tesla? I think Tesla is really overrated at the moment, really overvalued, and I think actually that's reflected in the rally that we've just seen in Ford and in VW, and actually a few other car companies as well recently. A lot of the traditional car companies have had a really big rally over the past 2 weeks, and yeah, I think that's a clear market reaction to the fact to the amount of money put behind the likes of Tesla and Neo. You look at their price earnings ratios, and you look at how many cars they sell and their ability to scale and stuff. Yes, they have an advantage over the old guys at the moment, but I think that that's narrowing very rapidly. And the growth for those original companies, or at least the ability for them to hold on to market share, is not priced in very well at all. So I still think there's a lot of upside. to those companies. And yeah, I just don't see Tesla as good risk to reward at the moment. What is your thoughts on Cardano? Do you think it will take over ETH? It's more secure technology and cheaper fees. Well, I mean, ETH 2.0 is starting to roll out now with staking and stuff, so that's now looking. I mean, I feel like I say this every year, right? But it is getting closer to seeing a big upgrade to Ethereum. And obviously, that will be dramatically increased transaction throughput and stuff like that, which will result in lower fees. I think Ethereum's just got too much of a lead at the moment, really, to bet against it. Yes, Cardano could overtake it. We could see Cosmos overtake it. We could see Polka Dot overtake it. I wouldn't necessarily bet on any of those things, though. I wouldn't be betting against Ethereum right now. Actually, I think Ethereum's probably going to break out again soon. Maybe in like the next couple of weeks to a new all-time high. So, do you copy any other traders? I think I skipped a question. Hold on. Want to know if you were aware of a macro top, if you expect bear market in the future, how you plan to deal with it. I mean, it depends on what the bear market's caused by. There's always a catalyst for these big bear markets, generally speaking. There's always something that sends it over. And I think that inflation and the cost of paying for COVID could be the start of that. But the financial system is far more resilient than it used to be. As I said, like I'm really not expecting anything in 2021, but there's a reason that I said earlier that the economic policy is something that is going to be really important to keep track of because it could still happen. I don't think it's very likely. If anything, we're going to enter like maybe a sideways market for a while. But also, it really depends on where you're investing in the market. There's plenty of companies that deserve to go bankrupt, right? Like they're not competitive, they're not innovating, they're not adding as much value to society anymore. So, necessarily they will go down in value. It's more of like a big kind of shift in what's perceived as valuable, I guess, that will happen. And even in bear markets, there's always big winners, and a lot of opportunity as well. In terms of how I deal with it, if it were to happen, hedging really, hedging and sticking to my fundamental research, right? Like if I don't think a bear market would affect the fact that there's going to be a transition away from internal combustion engines towards electric vehicles, for example. That trend is going to continue. The same is true of vertical farming. The same is true of plant-based diets. The same is true of CRISPR technology. All of these things, right? Those trends are still going to take place regardless. So as long as you're investing in the right trends at good valuations, then you should still be able to make money by going long. But I will be hedging with short positions on indices, especially indices that I feel are more likely to be hurt by the recession. But again, it depends on the form that the kind of market, the bear market takes. If you're asking questions, by the way, I know that I'm going to get really far behind chat, so I'm really, really sorry about that, and I promise I will try to go through them reasonably quickly and not ramble too much. Do you copy any other traders? I used to copy other people on my Jaynemesis 2 account. eToro changed the rules on being allowed to copy other popular investors if you're a popular investor. And second accounts and stuff a while ago, but I have seen that other popular investors copy people on second accounts, so I'm not sure if it's allowed or not. And at some point I will clarify it with eToro because I would love to copy more people. Yeah, I think there's a lot of really, really good investors, popular investors on eToro that I would love to copy. And many of them know who they are. I've been friends with Wesley for a really long time. For example, I still think he's one of the best popular investors on eToro, and it's really, really like pleasing to see him raising back up the ranks again recently. back in 2017, me, him, and a handful of others were kind of all around the top spot fighting for it. So it's good to see him there. Jeppe Kirkbond as well. We have totally different outlooks on life and politics and everything, but I've met him. I think he's like a super, super smart investor. Ishfaq Pirelli, he's long on GameStop, which I think is, an absolutely awful investment, but he's made an awful lot of money out of it, and he does a lot of good quality fundamental research. So he's another person that I like, but none of these are like recommendations on who you should copy, right? Like you need to be doing your own research on it and coming to your own conclusions. But there's a lot of people that I would copy if I could. How are you coping with mental health in lockdown? Mental health is important. So this is from my friend Johnny, who is a real life friend he lives just outside Basingstoke. He wouldn't like it if I said he lives in Basingstoke because he lives in Chinham, which is just outside Basingstoke. Yeah, mental health's fine for me, really. To be honest, it's not that much different for me. I'm lucky. I realise most people are not that lucky. Yeah, that's it, really. I try not to make anything worse for other people. I guess that's my kind of outlook on lockdown. I'm not one of those people that goes out unnecessarily. I pretty much just stay here, watch a bunch of Netflix, trade some stuff, play some games. That's me, really. My mental health is good. Hopefully yours is good, Johnny, and hopefully everyone else's is good. When I add funds, did I miss? I keep skipping questions. I'm so sorry. Are alphabet chips the best chips? I mean, they're pretty good, yeah. But no is the answer. The potato lattice chips are the best form of chips. Yeah. Chips, by the way, would probably translate to fries for most people watching this. This is again an inside joke by another friend of mine who saw my name spelled out with the little like potatoes that spell out your names in a photo on Discord a couple of days ago. If you want to join the Discord, by the way, you can type !Discord into chat, and Moobot will give you a link to join the Discord. So anyone can join it, as long as you're not a troll. There are rules. Please read the rules. It's not very long. It will take you 2 minutes to read the rules. Yeah, that's it really. Join the Discord. Why, when I add fund, I can't open trade? I'm assuming you mean can't copy open trades, because eToro disabled it for the time being. I believe that it is essentially linked with the copy block. So I think they're working on a solution that will make it so that you can copy open trades when you add funds, but for the time being you can't. And I don't know if or when that will ever get fixed. So don't assume that it will get fixed anytime soon. Adding funds using copy new trades is fine, really. There are some positions that I have that are quite long-term positions as it stands. So maybe you wouldn't get extra exposure to those, but the portfolio is so diversified that it really shouldn't hurt the health of the portfolio. It does mean that your stats wouldn't be entirely an accurate copy of my own. I mean, that's true anytime you add funds. You're not going to see exactly the same numbers in your copy as you see on my stats page for the month if you're adding funds. But again, if you're looking for compound growth and you're treating this as a long-term investment, then adding funds is just a sensible thing to do. A rate that you feel comfortable with. Like, don't feel pressured to add funds all the time. I always encourage people to diversify and copy other people on eToro as well. Can you stop the pound gaining against the dollar, please? It's annoying. Not really, to be honest. Unfortunately, I think that's going to continue for a while because of both the policy in the UK and the policy in the US, and obviously Brexit's just happened, so there's kind of like a relieving period where the pound is rallying. So yeah, sorry, that might continue for like a few more months. I get paid in dollars, so I feel your pain. Are you up for Warzone tomorrow afternoon? I don't play Warzone, unfortunately. So no. Generally, I play much more slow-paced games these days. I'm getting a bit old. I play a lot of Trackmania, which is a racing game. There's actually a free-to-play version if you feel like playing it. You can even download my Ghost and race against me and stuff on tracks, which is kind of cool. I play. What else do I play? I play Civilization. I play Transport Fever 2. I play a lot of like kind of sim games and like economy management games and stuff like that. Uh, what is your exit plan for Bitcoin and crypto? Um, Assuming you're talking about on eToro. I mean, realistically, I think if you look at crypto's history, I've been in it for a few bubble cycles now, and it does appear, as much as it's kind of illogical, that this kind of cyclical nature for crypto is going to continue. So I think we've still got a lot further up to go over the coming year or so. Um, I'm far less exposed than I used to be. I also think that given the kind of macro conditions of the economy and the world following COVID, it's actually a pretty safe thing to do to have some money allocated towards crypto. So certainly I wouldn't be removing all of my allocation. Even if I think it has reached the top, I'm still going to keep some crypto exposure. But for the time being, I don't really have an exit kind of planned, right? I need to wait and kind of see how things evolve more regarding the macro environment and also even just the technicals on cryptocurrency as well. But I think Bitcoin and some of the altcoins have got a pretty long way to run in terms of like when you zoom out a bit. I think yeah, another year or so at least. So I'll be analyzing when I kind of take some more of those profits along the way. But I mean, I'm still trading it as it's kind of on this journey. I mean, anyone who was up at 4 a.m. yesterday looking at my profile will have seen that I did a really quick day trade on Bitcoin, um, buying the dip at like 29,000 or so, and then closing it a bit later. So I'm trying to maximize it on the journey as well as much as I can, or as much as I feel comfortable with in terms of like the risk and stuff. Thanks for subscribing, by the way. I saw that 2 people subscribed. Please don't feel like you need to subscribe. You don't really get anything extra. I mean, you get some emojis and stuff because if you're gonna subscribe, I might as well give you something for it. But there are plenty of other cool people that you can subscribe to on Twitch. I encourage you to give people that earn less than me a subscription instead if you enjoy their content. But if you want to give it to me, you can give it to me. Has your trading strategy changed following the copy ban? No, not at all. It's completely the same. Yeah, it doesn't change anything as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's still my money in there. It's still all of your money in there. I'm still gonna trade responsibly and safely and to the best ability, to the best of my ability, as much as I can. What's your favorite F1 driver and why is it Lando? I do really like Lando, and yeah, Lando's pretty cool. In terms of on the grid at the moment, it's probably between Lando and maybe Ricardo. Uh, but I used to be a big fan of Nico Hulkenberg. Before that, Kamui Kobayashi was my favorite. Yeah, I like a few different drivers. I like an underdog as well, so I'm never a fan of whoever's in the top teams because that's just boring. SolarEdge 2021 predictions. They will continue to do very well. There is growing competition in the inverter space, but at the same time, they're also building more products outside of just that space, and the entire market is still growing at a really rapid pace. So there's still loads and loads of growth left for SolarEdge. It'll be interesting to see their battery products start to roll out. They've been talked about for a very long time. They're very delayed. So it'll be good to see how they stack up, if they can maybe compete with Tesla and LG Chem, who are basically the leaders in certainly in residential applications of battery storage. So that's one that I'll be kind of looking at in terms of SolarEdge. Um, aside from that, yeah, I mean, I think they're one of the healthier companies. They also have the advantage that they're based in Israel, and Israel, for those of you who don't know, is the country that is deploying the COVID vaccine faster than any other, which is a significant advantage in that their staff are going to be healthy and happier and more productive, and yeah, they'll just be in a much better position as a result of that. Obviously, their factories aren't in Israel, but still a really important thing to take note of. How do you manage risk in the portfolio? How much is the maximum you would allocate to one stock / asset, etc.? So I actually position my size my positions by roughly 0.5% of what the portfolio is currently worth. Usually a little bit more than that, just to kind of be safe in terms of copiers, minimum trade sizes, and stuff like that. I like that because it's much easier to kind of really quickly make decisions. You don't have to think about like the size of a position. You know what the size of the position is going to be. So if you have to react to some news or something that's come out on you, and you want to do a day trade or whatever, that's just one less thing to think about. Positioning wise, it's very rare that I'll ever have anything higher than 10%, and most things will be significantly less than even 5% of portfolio exposure. In the past, I've had Bitcoin, Ethereum, AMD, SolarEdge, Microsoft, maybe a couple of others that have been higher than 10% at some point. But it's not usually for very long. And that's across all of my history over the past 4 years of being a popular investor. So there's only really been four assets that have ever been over 10% as far as I can remember. So yeah, I mean, there's it's up for debate how many positions is a good number of positions to be managing and looking at in a portfolio. Because mine are in similar sectors, I find that 40, 50, even 60 positions is doable, because if I'm researching Tesla, then that means that just as a kind of side effect of that, I have to research their competitors, Neo and Li Auto, and whatever company it is, XPeng. So if I'm because I invest based in different sectors like solar, wind, hydrogen, chips, etc., then I've already kind of done the research. So managing more positions in that one sector is a lot easier in terms of risk management, because I know what's going on with their competitors already. um, what else do you invest in besides on eToro? So outside of eToro, I have an account on Seedrs that's actually publicly visible as well. So if you're on Seedrs, you will be able to see what I've invested in there. That's pretty recent. I obviously have a good amount of money in boring stuff like banks and ISAs and stuff like that, and even some bonds. I also invest. There's a company called Energize Africa, which is solar bonds that are pretty high yield, unsecured solar bonds that are pretty high yield, helping develop solar in Africa. That's a pretty nice place to invest. And if you're in the UK, they do an ISA as well, an innovative finance ISA. So yeah, you can get like 7% or so interest from that a year. I obviously have a bunch of crypto outside of eToro as well. That's about it really for the time being. In the future, I wouldn't mind investing in, maybe something like solar farms or something like that. That would be cool. I've thought about property, but property I'm just kind of a bit fundamentally opposed to, just because of how expensive property is in the UK, and I don't want to be part of the problem. So yeah, I own my own house and stuff like that, but beyond that, I don't think I'd want to become a landlord or anything really. Um, but yeah, that's about it outside of eToro. Noobs be like, should I copy open trades? You know what? I mean, I'm going to answer it now. You can't because I'm copy blocked. But when I'm not copy blocked, you should. Is the answer. And the main reason for that is basically opportunity cost. There's a very well known phrase in investing, which is time in the market beats timing the market. So if you're trying to wait for the perfect opportunity, 9 times out of 10, you will actually perform worse than if you would just put the money in straight away. So and the same goes for even when you're copying, you're adding funds, for example. If you're looking to add funds, even though it only copies new trades from this time forward, there is no time that I can advise you to add funds, right? It would be nonsensical for me to do so. If I knew some secret time that was a really good time to add funds, then that would imply that I know that some future trades of mine are going to perform better than others. Every time I open a trade, it's because I think it's going to make a profit. I wouldn't open it otherwise. So yeah, it kind of undermines that if I were to say that you shouldn't do it immediately and you shouldn't be in the next trade, because I wouldn't open the next trade unless I thought it was going to be good. So yeah, as soon as you have the funds available and you feel like it's a good time, you have a good safety net, you're well diversified, then yeah, add funds and don't worry about the timing. Is my general advice. So thanks for asking that, Jack. Because I mean, it's a question I get all the time. Like probably like 100 times a day, I get a question about how and when to copy. So there you go. Um, uh, do you have any AMD calls? I don't have calls because I don't trade options markets, but I do have AMD exposure. Yeah, AMD is let's see, AMD is one of my largest positions still. I did decrease it a bit. I took some profit during CES because they didn't really announce much, and I feel like there's going to be some downtime and there's better opportunities elsewhere. But it's still, if I look at my portfolio, yeah, it's still my third biggest position behind Ethereum and Bitcoin. So uh, views on Bitcoin for 2021. I mean, I've kind of touched on it already, but yeah, basically I'm bullish. I think the trend is going to continue. That's it. Simple as that, really. I'm new to trading and recently started to copy you with open trades. Do I need to do anything from now, or do you handle everything? Also, what games do you play? Thanks. I so we'll tackle the first part of the question before I start talking about what games I play. Yeah, basically it handles everything for you. Compound growth is included. You do not need to close positions manually. You don't need to close the trade in order to realize profits. The way it works is that you literally copy every single trade I do. If I open a trade, you open a trade. If I close a trade, you close a trade. The money that I would have made or lost will then be added back to the balance that's set to copy me, so that it can be reinvested in future, which is how you get the compounding growth. So there's you don't have to do anything really. Check up on it once in a while. If post questions if you have them about a position, if you're curious. Occasionally check that it's synchronized. Sometimes there are positions that don't copy correctly. So if you notice that I've got a position open and you don't, that you should have because it's a new trade, then open a support ticket to eToro and they should help you fix it. Or at the very least compensate you, and then your portfolio will reallocate resynchronize over time. Or they should compensate you. I'm not going to guarantee that they're going to compensate you. I don't know for sure, right? That's up to eToro. Um, any thoughts on Unity this year? I haven't really looked. I mean, I've kind of looked at them a few times. Unity, I do like Unity, but I think I like Epic more. Is the thing. And Epic is majorly owned by Tencent, so I've that's part of the reason why I have a lot of exposure to Tencent. I mean, also Tencent is obviously Chinese, and Chinese stocks are undervalued, as I touched on earlier. So yeah, it's not that I don't like Unity, but I think I mean, I'll look up the price of it now because I haven't looked at the chart in a week or so. But I think that yeah, they're still pretty overvalued. I think at the moment. I'd like to see a bit more of a kind of correction down, and also there's not that much price history really, obviously because it's quite a new stock. So I'd prefer to have a bit more in terms of technicals that I can look at as well for finding an entry. I probably will trade it in future, but at the moment it's not something that is like that I'm super keen on. I do think it's a good company though. It's just whether or not it's better than some of the other investments that are available to me in that kind of sector. Although actually, I don't really have that much in gaming at the moment. But what trade did you copy in Jaynemesis 2, and how much have you invested in eToro? I can't really remember off the top of my head. I know Wesley's in there. Um, Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. I've not really touched Jaynemesis 2 in years because, as I said, eToro changed the rules on copying people. So I've just left it until they decide to either close the account or tell me that I'm allowed to use it again. But it's copying like 7 or 8 people, I think, and I think all of them I think are in green. I only check it like every 3 months or so, really. So yeah, I couldn't tell you. I think there's a little bit of Bitcoin in there as well, actually, just because I open Bitcoin everywhere I go. What was the second part of the question? I missed it. He says losing the question. How much do I have invested in eToro? Yeah, so in that account, I think there's like maybe 30 grand or something. Probably more than that now, actually, thinking about it in terms of like profit and stuff. So yeah, we'll call it like 40k. My main eToro account, there's currently 105k. I would quite like actually to add more to eToro, especially since they added the insurance policy for up to 1 million euros. So yeah, I'd love to have more, but again, adding funds to eToro causes a lot of problems in terms of desynchronizing copiers and stuff. So for the time being, I'm not doing it. But when eToro release their new money card, that might give me a way of doing it that doesn't cause any disruption to copiers. And so if that happens, then I'll add it probably another 100k, maybe more. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with how much is in there, honestly. I know it seems like maybe that's quite a small amount given how much I get paid, but I had a mortgage to pay off and a car to buy, and stuff like that. And we're saving actually to move to a bigger house as well at some point. So if I think I'm going to need that money within the next few years, then obviously I'm not going to put it into what is really long-term investing. And obviously, I advise you to do the same, right? If you think you're going to need the money within 1.5 years, you definitely shouldn't be putting it into copying someone, realistically, because there's a very real chance there could be a bear market or some catastrophic event or whatever that could wipe out your savings, or maybe not wipe out, right? But cause a substantial drop that you wouldn't be very happy about. So yeah, I don't have too much in there at the moment. Just going to take a drink. You never realize how much talking it is until like you kind of realize how dry your mouth has got. Okay. I have around 200k. Do you think it's wise to use copy trading on eToro to gain around 30% profit a year? If 30% a year is my goal, do you think it's a good idea to spread my money evenly between around 7 or 8 popular investors so that if cheat traders are in loss, the others would make it up? Yes, basically. I think 30% a year on average is very doable with a diversified portfolio of copy traders, and also even copy portfolios. There's a few copy portfolios that return similar amounts to that. Outsmart Nasdaq, and a lot of the ones that follow just popular investors as well. And I like the renewable energy one as well. I think there's a CRISPR one that could be a decent kind of outside bet if you want to put a little bit on there. You don't have to position them evenly as well. Like, I wouldn't rule out putting in some safer popular investors as well. So, one of the guys I really like is Slow and Steady. And, his returns realistically every year are maybe going to be around 10% or so. But he is, as the name suggests, slow and steady. And you can put someone like that in it as a kind of a small hedge with a smaller part of the portfolio, or a larger part, to help kind of offset people like me, or some of the higher risk people that you might have in there. So don't always necessarily be looking for people that are around that 30%. You can take on a few more risky people and then kind of lower that risk by copying some safer traders as well. But yeah, I think 5, 10, 15 even copy traders is fine. Do your research. I recommend checking out Felix Falax on YouTube. He's got reviews of a lot of popular investors. Obviously, do more research than just watch his video. But his videos are a good kind of starter to kind of see if you should really look into someone further before copying them. Can you do live trading, please? I mean, I'm not really a day trader, so it'd probably be quite boring. I do a lot of closing positions and resizing stuff and things like that. But that's not really what this stream is about. I mean, if I see something, I have got my charts open, right? I'm watching the markets at the moment, so if I see something, you may end up seeing me do it. If I'm going to do it, then I will show you my screen. Like, I can switch here and show you it, and here are my charts. Oh, that one didn't work correctly, so I need to fix that on. I need to remember to fix that when I come back to when I get a chance after the stream is over, because I can't show you my crypto charts, I guess. But yeah, I am watching the markets while I'm doing this. But yeah, I'm probably not going to do any live trading. I'm really sorry. Hi Jay, I copied probably at an all-time high for cryptos just before the copy block. Should I let the entry point ride or close some out at some point? No, you should hold on to them. The loss has already happened, right? You already bought at the high. Maybe, of course, in perfect hindsight, closing it as soon as it had opened would have been a good plan, but closing it now is probably not a good plan. And the other thing is that what you're doing by closing any position, doesn't matter what it is in my portfolio, is you're desyncing with me purposefully. And so if I were to keep that position open for the rest of the year and actually went up by 120%, you would miss out on that game because you closed it. And your funds would just be sitting there waiting for that position to close so that it could then copy the position that replaces it, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's not really worth closing stuff like that. Generally, as a rule for copying anyone, I would say it's generally best, even if you disagree with what the popular investor is doing, not to try and micromanage the positions yourself, because it will just lead to your results being different to that person. And if you trust that person's overall strategy, of course, every popular investor is going to make mistakes and have bad trades, right? But I don't think it's really worth trying to micromanage that and try and optimize the copy, I guess, because it will just work against you. What tools and resources do you use for carrying out research? Well, I think the first one I would obviously mention is Google, right? Or insert search engine here, and the news generally. Those things are obviously things that you have to keep on top of. If there's some big news coming out about a company, then you need to know about it, and those, I guess, are the easy ways of finding it. I use Bloomberg, not the terminal, but I use the website for news, and I use the channel as well. I actually have the channel on most days for most of the day in the background. And, if I see something interesting, then I'll kind of tune into it. But otherwise, it's just background noise. I use Seeking Alpha Premium. Seeking Alpha is really good. They have articles that are kind of paywalled that you can see if you're on the premium, and they're of pretty good quality. Depending on the stock, they tend to focus on US stocks. They also make it easy for me to track earnings and SEC filings and presentations from filings, PR events, all of that kind of stuff. As well as, of course, the core fundamentals, the actual financials of the company. I also use Stockopedia. I started using that really recently, like within the past month or so. Before that, I used Guru Focus, but I just hated the interface. I love the content on Guru Focus, a lot of it, but I didn't like the interface, and I find Stockopedia much better for what I want, and it covers stocks in outside of the US much better than Seeking Alpha does. So I use that as well. There's another service that I just got that's currently private, and I managed to get early access through another popular investor on eToro called Robert Merck. If you want to check him out, I recommend him reasonably often, so I don't want to shill him too much. But he's a really good fundamental investor, and he makes a lot of YouTube content that's really good. And even that actually is, I guess, technically a tool I use for research as well, other people's research. But yeah, I've forgotten entirely the point I was going to make now. Oh yeah, there's a website that he used and managed to get me an invite to called Ticker, which I've only just started yesterday, so I haven't really kind of gotten to grips with it yet. I mean, again, it's really the same information as what Seeking Alpha and Stockopedia offer, but in a different format. I think, I'm not sure if there's really much more to it than that. YouTube, as I said, I kind of just mentioned it with Robert Merck. I actually watch a lot of YouTube channels about stocks and finances and stuff. And actually even just things like product reviews, a lot of product reviews for cars and for anything that I'm investing in, graphics cards, whatever, even Fiverr. I watch videos about Fiverr, about people using Fiverr and their experiences on Fiverr and stuff, because it's all useful for kind of getting the sentiment and the feedback of the consumers that are actually using these products, and that are really much more specialized in the industry than I ever could be in some cases. So yeah, a lot of content like that, some podcasts as well. Yeah, there's a lot of places where I get information from, I guess. But yeah, the main ones, and I would recommend it if you can afford it, and if you're looking to trade yourself instead of just copy people, then I would recommend Seeking Alpha and Stockopedia. They're both really good. Seeking Alpha also has a free version that's not too bad. It's pretty useful. So yeah, consider signing up to Seeking Alpha, even if you're using just the free version. It's a useful resource. That was a really long answer. Sorry. I know that I'm so far behind chat, and I'm missing all of your kind of feedback on things I'm asking or follow-up questions. But when you're answering this many questions, it's really hard to, there's really no other good way of doing it. And because I just scrolled, I've entirely lost where I was. So I guess I'll just start from here. I'm really sorry if I've just skipped over your question. Dividends, how do they work on eToro, and do you make anything off it? Yes, I do, and I do have some examples, so I will show you them. So I actually closed Home Depot today, and you can see here, this was a kind of a disappointing position. I did expect it to form a little bit better, even though it was not held for very long at all, actually. Really, in the grand scheme of things, a couple of months. I did expect it to form a little bit better, but as you can see, we got a refund here on the position of $1.5, and that is essentially the dividend. eToro gives you dividends through refunds. In open positions, it looks a bit different, but essentially it's the same thing. So Lowe's, which is actually a competitor to Home Depot that I'm more optimistic on, so still have them open. Again, it will appear down here in the fees. So these are both too recent. This one's not too recent to have it. Oh yeah, of course it's not. So this position's older, so it's got dividend on it. Tracking dividends is tricky on eToro. I mean, I don't really invest specifically for dividends. I've got some on Garmin and a few other companies that I invest in as well. But I don't really invest in companies for the dividends. UPS, FedEx, they have dividends. But yeah, hopefully that kind of answers your question, at least somewhat. Yeah. And in terms of like for your taxes in your country and stuff, like if you just download the eToro report, then it should all be separated out on there for you to do whatever it is in your country, if they get treated differently or not. My chat is scrolling on its own for some reason. It started scrolling. Maybe it's because I got so far behind that it's starting to like scroll the top of it now. I have an open position. Yeah, it's starting to scroll the top of it. That's pretty unfortunate. Okay, I'm going to have to just skip a bunch because otherwise it's going to keep just scrolling the questions away as I'm reading them, which is what it just did. So again, apologies if I'm missing your questions. Please don't like type them over and over and over again because I am going through these slowly. But if it's been 20 minutes and I've not answered it, then yeah, I guess type it again and hope that I answer it. It's pretty difficult. There's a lot of people that I need to try and answer. So I'm hoping that you're still getting value out of this. I found where I was before by accident. That's kind of amusing. Do you play FIFA 2021? I do not play FIFA. I'm sorry. The other thing I'll mention, by the way, is that Felix and Slug are answering some of your questions. If they're pretty common questions, they will answer them in chat for you in some cases. So big shout out to them for doing an amazing job at modding. I should probably pay them something. I mean, I pay my girlfriend because she does other stuff for me as well, but maybe I should pay my mods too. Maybe I'll give them the money from Prime subscribers. I don't know. I need to think about it more. Do you know anything about when eToro will be rolling out its debit card? Do you have it already in the UK? They're rolling out to the UK first, I think. I don't have it yet. I don't know when it's going to be rolled out. But I am signed up to be notified when it is, and I imagine probably because I'm talking to eToro quite a lot that they will just tell me when it's out and ask if I want it. So when I get it, I'll let you know what it's like. I'm pretty excited about it because it should make things pretty easy for me actually. For me especially, it'll be useful. But I mean, even for a lot of you guys, it can be useful as well, right? You can use it to just spend your profits. I guess kind of dangerous in some ways, or if you're just using it as a normal account and your balance from your salary or something just goes straight into that account, then that's pretty cool too. Maybe you'll be a bit too tempted to invest it rather than keep it in some sort of a safe format for emergencies. But I don't know. I think it's pretty cool, to be honest. I like it. It's a good idea. What would you recommend as long-term stock to buy and forget to give good return in a few years? I mean, it depends on your risk appetite. I could pick a million different stocks. Pretty much every company I'm invested in, I think, is going to be doing better than they are now in a few years' time. I don't know. I would suggest copying me or copying another popular investor, because then it doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about if the company's going to do well in a few years. That's the popular investor's job, and they'll change it for you if things go bad or if things change. That's kind of my view on that. I mean, I get questions like this all the time, like, recommend me a stock, and it's like, well, yeah, I could, I guess, do that, but it's not really my job, and B, I believe in diversification, right? If there was one, I would never recommend anyone put their money in just one stock. That's ludicrous. Would you ever consider doing a stream showing how you go about researching a company? No, not really, for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm pretty sure it's against the terms of service, and all of the tools that I use to really show them. Um, I have sneakily shown people little glimpses before, but I really don't. I mean, I'm sure that they will appreciate that because they'll see it as marketing. But um, beyond that, I think doing it in any sort of a regular way or even semi-regular way, I don't want to go down that road, right? I need those tools, so I'm not going to jeopardize breaking their terms of service. So I wouldn't do that. There are some good videos on YouTube on things like how to read SEC filings and stuff like that I've seen. From people who make just generally good content and analysis of companies. One thing I will say just on the topic of YouTube though is to be really, really careful. Recently there's been a lot of um, essentially penny stocks bribing YouTubers to make positive videos about their company so that they can then issue extra shares and essentially pump the stock. So be really, really careful about content you see on YouTube, especially if it's a company you've not heard of and someone's doing analysis of it. And obviously, don't invest on the back of just YouTube or what anyone else says about a stock. Do your own actual research if you're going to do that kind of stuff. Do you respect the palm? No, I don't. And I don't respect Ivan on tech either. I think he wasted what was a good audience. He had good content covering how cryptocurrencies worked, and he changed his content to basically just shill and talk complete garbage about short-term trading and stuff when that wasn't what he was good at. Right? He was a developer. He focused on developing stuff. It was good content, and then he pretended that he knew how to trade and shills awful projects to people. Yeah, don't watch Ivan on Tech or any crypto YouTuber for the most part. They're mainly selling you rubbish. My chat's scrolling too fast, you guys. Simple question. When will be the next time you think will be the best to increase our copy amount? I touched on this earlier. If you weren't here for it, then this video will be on YouTube afterwards, so you can go back and watch it. But the short answer is there's no good or bad time to start copying or add funds or stop copying. So just do it based on your own personal circumstances. If you are in a good position to add more funds, then do it. If you're not, then don't. Pretty simple. Do you think NEO will reach $300 in the next 2 years? That's a 6x roughly off the top of my head from where their price is. Maybe. It's certainly possible in the next 2 years, 6x. Yeah, it's possible, but I would say that they're currently relatively overvalued, so things would have to continue to go very well for them to hit 6x their current price. Actually, it's 5x. They're at $60 now. It's possible. I wouldn't be necessarily betting the house on it, but I do own some NEO. I am bullish on NEO. I like what they do, and I think they've got a good brand. I think they've got a good moat actually, and a good advantage over their competitors that they'll probably keep at least for the next 2 years. So, yeah, it's possible, but I wouldn't count on it. Such stupid questions coming in right now. Oh, everyone starts somewhere. There's a lot of people that have joined eToro in the past 6 months, so there are going to be a lot of questions that people, people have asked me before. You just kind of have to accept that, at some point you also ask the question of should I copy open trades. So don't be too harsh on new people. And if you know the answer to questions that new people are asking, feel free to answer it. I mean, if I see it and it's wrong, then I'll come in and politely correct you. But yeah, don't be afraid of helping other people. Like we're all in this for the same reasons, right? So or similar reasons, I guess. In regards to shopping, what do you think about Jumia in comparison with other shopping stocks? I think it's an interesting one, a really interesting one. I mean, it really is attacking a market that nobody else is focused on, certainly not to that level. And obviously, there is huge potential there. We can see the big shopping giants in Asia, the US, and Europe, and what they've managed to do. So, of course, there's huge potential there, but there's also a lot of risk. You know, they operate in some much more volatile uh, companies. They operate with more volatile um, currencies, which can also have an impact. They're still a young and growing company. They're a pretty hyped stock as well. But yeah, it's definitely one to keep an eye on. And there is really good growth potential. But as I say, it comes with some risk. Uh, how do you find smaller stocks with potential to invest, like Crsp and Ttcf? Well, I mean, those, it's really about the sectors that you're looking at. I've mentioned before in interviews and podcasts and um, probably in previous Q&As that I'm a really big fan of the kind of idea of futurology. Futurology stands for future studies, and since I was like 13, I just got super into sci-fi essentially, and then from sci-fi I got into the realistic kind of future of the world. And so I've been looking at things like autonomous cars and vertical farming and GMOs and genetic modification, transhumanism generally, all sorts of really long time things, like long term plays like that for a really long time. And so, Tattooed Chef, for example, is just a play on veganism and plant based diets. That's all it is. And I see that as a necessary shift, both because of the environment and because of, health, and obviously for animal rights as well. I see it as something that is going to eventually consume, a large amount of the planet's diet. Most people will switch to plant-based diets, maybe even fully plant-based diets over the coming decade or so. So it's just a clear play in that sector, and when you look at those sectors, you just naturally find the companies that are involved in them, and that was one of the ones that I found, along with many others. So that's how I found it, and the same is true with CRISPR, right? Gene editing has been something that's been talked about by the scientific community for the past decade or so, and there are a lot of startups in that space. I've actually talked and tweeted about CRISPR, the company, for probably a year now, and asked eToro to add it as a stock about a year ago as well. And they finally added it a few days ago. Someone actually alerted me to it on Discord. I checked the price, I checked the technicals, decided it was a perfectly good time to enter. So I opened my position. There are other stocks in that space as well that are good, but that one is actually my favorite, which is why I was pretty excited to see that eToro had added it. But again, it just comes from exposure to researching that entire kind of field and the idea of what is the potential of gene editing. How is it going to be used? Is it a good thing for the world? Is it a bad thing for the world? It could be both, but I think overall the positives outweigh the negatives. I like the technology. I can see that it's going to happen. Yeah, I decided that I want to invest in the sector, and that's the company I like the most. uh, let's see. Why are you holding on to your Bitcoin positions? Because I think it's going to go up. Um, Pretty simple answer. Most copied page hides the ones outperforming the market. Thoughts? It depends on what you mean by outperforming the market. And I'm going to give you some examples, because why not? And this may seem a bit like I'm picking on people, but just know that this is nothing personal against the people that I find, right? But if I go to copy people and I go up here and we just remove every filter, uh, so that it shows essentially everyone that's active on the platform. And instead of ordering it by copiers, we just order it by return. You're going to see people like this guy. No offense, NV Pavel, if you're here, or if you ever see this. But just by looking, he's using leverage, a lot of leverage. He's been really successful, actually, for a surprising amount of time, somehow. But with that kind of leverage, all you need is an event like March to happen when you're slightly out of position or you're slightly unprepared, and you can get wiped out immediately. It's all about risk to reward, right? You know, the risk scores on eToro are not perfect, but they are a good indicator, as are drawdown levels. So, again, like if we look at someone like a social investor, for example, I don't think I've ever really looked at his profile, and we go to his stats and stuff, and you can see his average risk score, and you can see that his returns actually are pretty much like in line with like the S&P / Nasdaq, somewhere in between the two. And that's probably because he invests in them, but like his drawdowns are better, right? So if you get a result that is the same as the S&P 500, but you have less drawdown, that is outperforming it. Outperforming doesn't mean making more profit than. It's making more profit whilst having less risk or the same risk, or making the same amount of profit with less risk. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day, is the risk adjusted returns. So yeah, that's the thing you should really be looking at when you're analyzing who to copy, not how much profit they've made. And also, look at things like leverage and stuff. It's very easy to go in someone's portfolio and just have a look and see what they're doing. Some leverage is okay, especially in things that aren't that volatile. But if someone's trading Jumia on 5x leverage, that's risky, because Jumia is a really volatile stock. So don't copy them, or at least look and see if they've got hedges against it, right? Are they investing in one sector or in multiple sectors? How much of their portfolio is allocated to one asset? How diversified are they? Those are things you should look at, I guess, in my opinion. If I have more money now, do I have to manually balance the positions, or when will you be doing this? It will essentially catch up over time. So every time I close a trade and then open a new one, it will copy that new one, and you will have more and more percentage-wise of your new funds set to copy my trades. So yeah, just add funds as and when you can, and it will sync up on its own over time. Any opinions on the ARK ETFs? So I think I absolutely love Cathie Wood's approach to investing, thematic investing, and actually the first time I really learned about her and learned about her style of investing, it really resonated, because it's very similar to how I view things as well. I said earlier that I look at the future and I decide on these trends that are happening, and then I decide if they're going to be good trends or bad trends. If I can make money out of it, I look at the companies and I invest in that trend, with the expectation that that trend is going to play out and that the companies I've picked are going to benefit from it. And that's basically what she does, and what ARK does. But that being said, I think there is real danger with ARK that they are managing so much money, and have so much influence and so many people looking at what they're doing and copying what they're doing, that a lot of the companies they're investing in are actually really overvalued. Because people see that ARK invest in some company, they'll add something new to their portfolio. Cathie Woods will tweet something nice about them, and then everyone and their mother will go and invest in that company, and all of a sudden the valuation looks shockingly awful, and it's not a good investment anymore. So yes, ARK Invest, obviously they're investing before those other people, so they're going to perform better generally than those people. They are investing, I think, in really good stuff, and I like the trends they're investing in on autonomous vehicles and CRISPR and whatever. But I don't think you should overexpose to it if you're gonna go with it. I think maybe they're a bit overhyped for what they really offer, I guess. Get this guy some water, please. um, will you receive/buy eToro shares before the IPO? Well, the IPO isn't confirmed; it's only rumors. So we don't know that they're going to IPO. I think they probably will, in my opinion. But I don't have any side info that says that they will or anything like that. I can see Wesley in chat. Hi, Wes. Uh, yeah. If I'm able to, and I'm not sure if I will, because potentially I could influence the share price in some way, and it could be seen as insider trading. Maybe I'll have to jump through a lot of hoops. I probably won't be able to do it on my portfolio on eToro. But I would like to invest in eToro. I think eToro is a really good company, really innovative. I love the products they're working on. I think they're expanding in sensible ways. And I think, honestly, that they're probably going to be undervalued because I think most people are so focused on the US equivalents, if you can call them that, like Webull and Robinhood, obviously, that I think actually eToro is kind of flying under the radar a bit. And yeah, depending on which exchange they list on as well, it could be even more so. If they actually list on an exchange based out of Europe instead of on like the Nasdaq or something, which I think they probably would list on. But if they listed in Europe, then all those American hype investors from Wall Street Bets may not know about it until a bit later. So I think it would probably be a pretty good investment. What are your thoughts on fuel cell and plug power? I really like both of them. I think fuel cell is more overvalued than plug power is. I think both of them are overvalued though. But at the same time, I do think most people are dramatically underestimating the eventual scale of the hydrogen industry that we're kind of seeing these companies build right now. I think hydrogen will become the dominant form of battery storage in the world. I mean, something a lot of people don't know. I mean, I guess I don't want to like delve into the science, and I'm not a scientist or anything, anything crazy, right? But in oil and in a lot of the fuel sources that we use, hydrogen is essentially the element that is the real fuel within that fuel when you're burning it and when you're using it. Hydrogen is the thing that really stores that energy. So it is a very, very pure form of a battery in that sense. And the way that you use hydrogen, like hydrogen fuel cells, people think of hydrogen as a fuel, but like it's not like something that goes into a motor, right? It's not the same as that. It really is a battery that you can kind of charge and discharge. I think hydrogen is going to not only become the thing that powers shipping, almost certainly, trucking potentially, and aeroplanes almost certainly, certainly the larger ones at least, or the long haul ones. But also our grid. I think it's just going to become the main way of store, the main method, unless battery technology can improve fast enough to outcompete it. It will become the main way of storing energy. And of course, the cool thing about it is that you can repurpose things like oil pipelines to send hydrogen around the world. And if you look at the strategy of countries like Japan, Australia, not so much Russia, but maybe some of the Scandinavian countries. They're looking at using renewables like wind energy, perhaps even tidal and wave energy, and solar energy, especially in Australia, to just produce this stuff, set up like offshore kind of refueling stations for the shipping industry to refuel from this stuff. Like this is happening right now. That these countries, nations are strategically planning this stuff. The UK is investing huge amounts of money in building out hydrogen infrastructure for this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm super bullish on the industry, and I think most people underestimate that. And to some extent, it doesn't matter which companies you invest in the space. You're probably going to make a lot of money if you hold on to it over the long term. But at the same time, because it's such a hype industry, you do need to do some research because there's plenty of companies that haven't actually done anything yet, and have extortionate valuations. How long will you be staying with eToro? A lot of people ask me this as well. I have zero plans to leave eToro. I love my job. I love what I do. I am kind of addicted to the idea of like these kind of thought experiments, like what I just explained, really about hydrogen and thinking about these things. So it's very logical for me to continue investing in them. Setting up a fund, people think that I'm going to go and set up a fund or something. No, way too much work. eToro makes things easy for me. You know, I do the trading, they handle the paperwork. That's the way I like it. And not only that, but I love the access that eToro gives people. You know, I believe I'm not mistaken in saying that the Philippines is the country with the second highest number of people copying me behind the UK. And the average salary in the Philippines compared to the UK is obviously quite a bit lower. And the average copier that I have in the Philippines is copying me with a lot less. But that doesn't, that's good. I want to help people that have found eToro and found investing to help, build some wealth, and build up some freedom, and improve their lives. You know, and if I start a fund, then all I'm doing is helping rich people get richer, and I want to help everyone get richer, I guess. But mainly not the rich people. Sorry if you're a rich copier. Yeah, that's the way I see it, I think. So yeah, I mean, no plans of leaving anytime soon. Do you think other banks will follow HSB in banning crypto transactions? No, I don't. UK is a fintech hub. Brexit was part of a strategy to further kind of deregulate, actually, if anything, and allow for this kind of innovation. HSBC is a bit of an edge case. I mean, I would never bank with HSBC anyway. I think they're an awful company, and it's ironic since they have the biggest bans for money laundering and stuff that they say these sorts of things about cryptocurrencies. But yeah, no, generally I don't expect banks to ban it, and if anything, I expect HSBC will reverse that decision at some point. Not that I think they've actually banned it technically. What are your thoughts on Jumia? Bears compare it to us on bulls compare it to Tesla. I'm curious what your opinion is. Look at the finances. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I mentioned it earlier. Like, I answered this because you highlighted it. You used your J coins to highlight it, so why not? Why not try and elaborate a bit more? But no, I don't think there's much to add, really. It's a risk. It's a really risky thing to be investing in. I mean, they're in a less stable region of the world, is where they do where they're operating. There is potential for some of the bigger Western countries to move in and try and disrupt them. They are following the approach of most growth stocks these days, and reinvesting everything in growth, which obviously has risks for investors. Yeah, play at your own risk. I've never held more than 1.5% exposure to them in my portfolio, and currently I hold zero. And I think it'll probably remain that way. You've got to treat it as something risky. Yeah, you could make a lot of money by getting it right, but you could lose it all if you get it wrong. And it's very possible. So. What is your trading frequency on cryptocurrencies when the market is extra volatile? I mean, it depends. I don't do that many day trades, as I said before, on anything really. But I've been known to do maybe like 10 or 15 trades in a day on a single asset in some situations. It's pretty unlikely that I would do that though. So I guess that gives you an idea. Which ETF is best to invest in right now? I don't know. I mean, I quite like Fan and Tan, the two kind of wind and solar ETFs. But I mean, I don't know. It depends what you're looking for. There's ETFs for all sorts of different things. Do you think renewables will still grow? Yes, massively. I also think it's increasingly important to kind of clarify that there is a difference between renewables and green energy. You know, renewable just means that you can keep making it and keep using it. You know, like biofuel is renewable, right? We keep producing waste and then we turn the waste into fuel, and we use the fuel. That doesn't mean it's good for the planet. You know, you're still burning stuff and sending it up into the atmosphere. That's not good. So yeah, I mean, yeah, would be useful to know where Jay is in the chat. I'm reading you what you're saying, Chris, in Discord. I'm really sorry to whoever it is that keeps asking questions that I keep not answering. But yeah, I am way behind where the chat is. So, and even then, the chat's moving so quickly that it's actually moving out of my chat, so I can't even read from the very top anyway. I'm never going to catch up and read every single question that has been asked in this chat. I'm sorry, there's just too many questions. But I'm doing my best. You know, stay calm. Don't continually repeat your question and expect me to answer it immediately. It's not going to happen. You're probably going to be waiting at least 20 minutes before I even get to where your question is, and even then, I might end up missing it. So yeah, sorry again if I'm missing questions. But what is a user interface feature that you would change on eToro? Something that annoys you. um, I would change the stats page, and I would do what they have done for my like actual performance history. I would do the same thing for risk score, for drawdowns, and for trades at the bottom as well. So it shows your three most frequently traded, but my three most frequently traded things are all at least somewhat hedging positions. So it doesn't really accurately represent my normal trading profits. So I would expand that to show the whole list. There's also some changes I'd probably make to the dashboard, but yeah, I think the stats page would be the first thing that I would change, because I think you know, more information is always going to be a good thing in terms of helping copiers find good people to copy. Nice buy at 29k. Thanks. There's a lot of questions that are like really stock specific, and they're not even stocks that are in my portfolio, so I'm kind of skipping over them, I'm afraid, because there are other questions that I think are more important and also more interesting, that more people will get value from. So yeah, sorry. Any plans to increase our position in Nel hydrogen? I would really like to, but currently I can't because of liquidity restraints. This is part of, I assume, I mean, I don't actually know for 100% sure, but I believe this is part of the reason that eToro has copy blocked me, is that there are a reasonable number of companies that I essentially currently can't trade. eToro are looking into it and looking at solutions and stuff, but essentially I can't trade them, and Nel is one of them. So I can't open any more positions in Nel currently at this time. If I could, would I? Maybe a little bit. Not much though. They're a risky company at the end of the day. You know, a lot of the orders that they have which are priced in, I would say, I'd like to point out as well, are from Nikola, and Nikola is not a reliable company. They're also, they are a hype stock in a hype industry, so I wouldn't build too much exposure there. The company I would most like to add to, or the two companies really, but mainly one, which is Ørsted Energy. I would probably make that my largest position, or near, certainly one of my largest positions. I think that they're just really, really strong. But again, I have liquidity restraints, so I currently can't do that. But I'm hopeful that eToro will find a solution soon, and that we can do it. But it's not entirely eToro's fault, right? Like it's complex when you're talking about the kind of money that I'm moving around, and the number of positions that opens for copiers, and it being on a smaller market as well. Like the Copenhagen exchange in that situation. Do dividends automatically go into the copy? Yes, they do. And fees automatically come out of the copy as well, like out of your copy. So fees and dividends are included in the stats you see when you see that profit loss percentage, essentially, on the copy. Can you see our profile accounts when you make a trade? No, I cannot. I cannot see anything on your profile beyond what you can see on my profile, and that's assuming that your profile is public. I don't know how much people copy me with. I don't know when they started the copy. I don't know, their individual positions unless I go onto their portfolio and click into them all, the same as you would on my profile. Most PIs were down heavy in 2018. What happened that year that brought the markets down, and why weren't people able to hedge against the drops? The short answer for the general market is Trump. The long answer is macroeconomic stuff, political tension, wars, sort of. This is when North Korea was kicking off a lot, and the crypto drop. So yeah, it was a combination of all of those things. Me and Wesley, interestingly, I watched Wesley's updates video on YouTube yesterday. I just caught the end of it, and he answered a question and was talking about 2018 as well, and pointed out that actually it wasn't a question; it was during his main presentation, I think. He pointed out that he was actually experimenting with using 2x leverage towards the end of 2017 into 2018, and that it worked really well in 2017, and in 2018 it all came undone. And I did the exact same thing as well. So that actually magnified my losses substantially. I had just started to experiment with using 2x leverage. I learned my lesson. I don't use 2x leverage now. Or, I use leverage very sparingly, usually in hedging positions only. Yeah, but generally speaking, there was the crypto stuff, there was the China trade war, there was North Korea kicking off, there was Brexit stuff going on at the time. There were elections in Brazil and in Germany and in a lot of Eastern European countries. In France with Le Pen, there was so much going on in Canada. Regulation changes, tariffs on solar. The solar industry had a horrific year. The semiconductor industry also had a horrific year. Semiconductor companies priced in crypto mining, and then crypto mining fell off a cliff because cryptocurrency prices collapsed. So, it really was like a perfect storm of things that went wrong in 2018 over and over and over again for the entirety of the year. And that's why it was such a horrendous year for me. It looks like a really, really, really bad year on paper, but I think when you consider that I had over 50% exposure to cryptocurrencies, most of which fell by over 90% that year, and the stuff that wasn't exposed to cryptocurrencies was leveraged exposure to the solar industry, which had tariffs and was impacted by the trade war, and by tensions in the South China Sea and things like that. And I also had exposure to the semiconductors, which I just mentioned, were um, hit by the changes in mining and things like that. Like it really, really was just a perfect storm of everything going wrong. And I think it's unlikely to occur again. And also, I've taken a lot of actions to diversify further, and would never have that much money allocated into single stocks or leveraged or into cryptocurrency again. So. I hope that answers the question. I answer this question every time I do a Q&A. Someone asks about 2018 and what happened. So I should probably really like clip it out and then make a separate, literally just upload that as a clip to YouTube so that I can link it to people in future. Do you support some charities? Can you talk about it? Yes, but not as much as I should. So I mentioned last year that for this year I was going to pick 5 charities and donate 10% of my income to them. I haven't done that yet. I've picked a couple of them. A lot of things have just kind of got in the way, but I do plan on doing it. There's another person, another popular investor on eToro that I like, called Jasper Soapy. I don't know how you pronounce. I probably butchered his name. Sorry if you're watching. And he actually has like a little badge that he puts on all of his infographics to say that he's donating 10% of his income to, or I'm not sure if it's income or profits, but to charities. And yeah, he actually spoke to me about it after he saw me tweeting about me wanting to do the same thing, and said, like, do you want to use the badge and kind of turn this into a thing and try and attract other popular investors to do the same? And I said yes, and at some point eventually I will do that. I've chosen a couple of the charities, but you know, I haven't like properly done it yet. I'm working on redesigning my website. Once that's done, I will list the charities on there. I'll probably maybe have 1 or 2 of them that rotate each year. And I was thinking about getting copiers to vote for them as well to try and make it democratic. But it's like what I find important, because I'm earning this money based on copiers that are from around the world. So I don't want UK specific charities. I don't want European specific charities. I want charities that are helping the world generally, or a demographic of people that are spread across the world. So yeah, it's more difficult than you might think to kind of figure out what it's going to be and stuff. And yeah, I haven't given it the time that I should, but yeah, those are what I plan on supporting in the future. Right now, I donate to a few charities that I'm desperately trying to think of. There was a period of time in like 2017 where anyone who came and knocked on my door for a charity, I would just start donating them £50 a month, which was kind of hilarious, because I ended up donating to, like, I don't know, after like 12 months, I was donating to like, I don't know, 15 different charities, some of which I didn't even like. So yeah, I kind of changed my approach from that. So, but I am still donating to a few of them. Amnesty International being probably the biggest one. Are you a Spurs fan? No, I'm not. I'm not really a football fan. I mean, I guess if I was to pick a Premier League club, then it would be Spurs. Yeah, I don't really support anyone these days. I'm just not that into football, I'm afraid. Will the copy trade ban be lifted? Yeah, eventually. I don't know when, but eventually it should be, I think. If you guys haven't already, another reminder that you can join the Discord. Type !Discord and you can join it. It's open for pretty much anyone. What do you think about GameStop? Thanks a lot. Keep it up. I was hoping someone would ask about GameStop. I've been ranting about GameStop to my girlfriend, who is very bored of the subject by now, for the past like 3 days. I think GameStop's an absolutely terrible investment. I think it's massively overvalued. I have a lot of experience in this industry. I helped Game on their So Game is essentially the UK version of GameStop. I helped them on developing a lot of the plans along with other people. I was by no stretch of the imagination was I in charge of it, but I helped them develop their esports strategy, their gaming arena strategy, like their long-term prospects for how to transition out of selling games and into something more sustainable long-term. And the conclusion that I reached, and that many others that were working on it as well reached, was that there are real dangers of even the things that they're transitioning into from being disrupted. When I look at GameStop, and GameStop worked with Game at a few points. I don't know how much of this I'm allowed to tell you, but I mean, it's been years, so whatever. But yeah, GameStop were speaking with Game as well, and they were looking at the same things that we were looking at. And yeah, they've had changes in the board and things since then and stuff, but the US is behind the UK in terms of things like online shopping trends, and these kind of experiential trends in shopping malls and things like that. So if anything, yes, they've got a bit more time to try and figure it out in, but I've seen how it unfolds and I've seen the reality of what happens. And for those that don't know, Game got acquired because Game were running out of money. And it's it's that simple reason, and the only reason that they got acquired really is because the person that acquired them is acquiring everything on the high street, so that he can turn around to individual towns and say, pay me money or you're going to have no shops. Like it's a ludicrous situation, but generally speaking, um, they're reliant, like they've got this new deal with Microsoft that everyone's talking about and bullish on for some bizarre reason. Really, what's happened there is bullish for Microsoft. GameStop have agreed to use basically all of Microsoft's products for everything. The 365 suite, Azure, using Surface tablets in the shop, like everything is going to be Microsoft powered. Great deal for Microsoft. They get lots of brand awareness and probably are still getting paid for those services. But I'm maybe giving a bit of a discount or whatever. I don't see what the advantage is for GameStop, really, honestly. At the end of the day, they're competing with the people that make the games and own the platforms that the games are being played on. And the same goes for PC. People just keep saying, well, it's fine, they're transitioning away from consoles. That's not fine, because most people play PC games on Windows, which is owned by Microsoft and has a Windows store where you can directly buy games that are made by Windows by Microsoft, because Microsoft have bought Bethesda. And this is a trend that's ongoing in the industry. Sony and Nintendo are also buying up game developers as well, and even the ones that they're not, the really big game developers like Activision Blizzard, like Epic, like Ubisoft, like EA, they all have their own online stores where they're selling the content direct to consumer. GameStop is nothing other than a middleman, and there is no sustainable way for their business to survive selling games. Not only that, but there is no sustainable way for them to survive by just offering PC building and things like that in store, because it's a much more niche market, and even though it's growing, kind of, it's not gonna be to the same scale that their business is currently valued at. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any pluses for GameStop, and I realize that this is probably going to get clipped and put on like Wall Street Bets or something. But that's my opinion, and I'm yet to be convinced. I don't see a compelling argument for being long GameStop, and I think honestly, it's a lot of people just gambling, and essentially, it's like a weird decentralized pump and dump that's going on right now, in my opinion. And if I could short it, I would, but there's not enough liquidity at the moment. I need to breathe. Sorry, I knew this was going to turn into I was waiting for a GameStop question because, yeah. And land centers aren't even viable for them either, really. Like land centers also suffer from the same problems, right? Publishers want to control everything. You want to set up an esports league? Good luck. You have to get permission from the people that make the games. The people that make the games are Microsoft. They're probably going to want you to pay them money to do it. It's just ludicrous. I've just seen a comment that's like in a rug deleted from chat. Um, I recall in your latest Q&A you talked about why you bought Ørsted Investors. Can you dive a little bit deeper into your rationale and expectations? So I mean, I haven't honestly, I haven't looked at them that much since that last time. But they're basically the leaders, at least in Europe, in those fields. Offshore wind is obviously the future of wind. Onshore wind, you can't build them big enough because you just can't transport a 120-meter long wind turbine. you know, try driving that down a road in Europe. It's like it doesn't happen, even on trains. So they're limited there, and offshore wind just makes a lot more sense because there's less stuff blocking the wind, and all that stuff. And also, there's innovation taking place now in terms of like tidal and wave energy attached to the wind turbines that are offshore as well. So they're kind of doubling their kind of power generation. The other thing is obviously they're looking at building hydrogen plants and water desalination plants and things like that are powered by these things because of the location. So that's another thing that's kind of in their favor. Ørsted, more so than VWS, are actually diversifying a bit more out of just wind as well, and they are involved in a lot of the hydrogen projects that are going on. I mean, again, like it's kind of just a general sector play. I want wind, I want solar, and I want hydrogen. And as far as wind is concerned, these are the two best companies that I found for it in terms of valuation, the balance sheet, projections, the size of the company as well. They have, they're big companies. And actually, Siemens is also pretty big name in this kind of space as well that I really like. But Siemens is complex because they have a lot of companies with the same name that do different things, and you've got to figure out which one's in what. But that's besides the point. Yeah, I just think that the two most compelling companies in this sector that I've found. As I said, like I've not looked at it recently, so I can't really kind of off the top of my head remember the numbers and stuff. But yeah, I like them the most. Lockheed Martin dropped quite a lot. Financials look good. Any thoughts about the company? I have two thoughts. The first is that they're a weapons company, so I don't really look at them and won't invest in them because of that. I don't invest in anything that I think is essentially unethical, and I think that is a pretty unethical company. Even though I understand the need for, at least some very basic level of defense, but even then, I mean, but also, I mean, Biden just got elected, so Democrats. I mean, he was pretty trigger happy actually when he was obviously with Obama during the Obama administration. But even still, it's clearly not going to be as aggressive as Trump, and the world can see that, right? Like it's much more of a kind of love thy neighbor kind of stance that he takes in terms of foreign relations. So that's probably why it's dipped a bit, I would guess. But purely a guess because I don't invest in that sector, so my knowledge there is not going to be as good as someone else that does. Um, Someone's asked about Jumia again. I've talked about Jumia twice, so I'm not going to answer more on Jumia. I'm wondering, with the huge amount of money you invest, why you aren't investing in smaller stocks, not big giants. Just 1% of your profile move them smaller stocks in the market. No, I mean, yeah, but I'm not in the game of manipulating markets. And also, eToro doesn't have that many small cap stocks. Also, small cap stocks are generally much more volatile and much more dangerous. And yeah, if I'm moving the market, then that means there's going to be slippage. which is bad because it means that we're all going to get a worse price if it executes, and otherwise it probably would be stopped from executing by eToro because they don't want me moving markets either. Yeah, I mean it just doesn't really make much sense. Sometimes there will be opportunities in small stocks, and maybe I'll feel a bit sad that I can't invest in some of them. But I mean, generally speaking, if anything's lower than $1 billion in market cap, then I'm probably not going to be investing in it. There's not much else I can really add to that. Yeah, and as I said, I'm not in the game of manipulating markets, even if I could. I'm not Wall Street bets. I'm not going to pump up GameStop. Sorry, I'm waiting for the backlash from that. I know that there's the funny thing about GameStop is that I really respect Ishfaq Pirelli on eToro as a popular investor, and I've seen the kind of research and stuff that he does, and I respect him, but I don't understand his decision on GameStop. Maybe he sees something I don't. I mean, he must do. He's still holding on to it, so he must do. But when Solar was crashing last year, you said you don't think it will get back up to 250. You think it's overvalued now. I should point out that I said it wouldn't get back up to 250 by the end of the year. I didn't say that it wouldn't ever get back up to 250. That would be a ludicrous statement because it's in a growing industry and it's a growing company. Let me just check what their price is at now before I dig myself any holes by saying something. Yeah, I mean, it's at 314. Yeah, it's gone higher, but you've got to consider what's happened since then. Biden won an election. Biden is very pro-green energy. All green stocks and renewable stocks rallied dramatically at the point of the election. They've also all rallied dramatically this year since the start of the year. And actually, it's dropped a little bit off from there. But I would say that the rise in solar energy is entirely justified. And they had a bad earnings, and they've had a lot of delays to their battery product. There's still some risks there. Maybe their battery product's going to be absolutely rubbish. That would really suck. But they are still essentially market leaders in the inverter space. So. How much did you grow your portfolio, and how much did you start with? So when I first started investing, I started with maybe a couple of £1,000 in total. This was 10 years or so ago. And I wasn't earning very much at all, so I didn't really add anything to it. And yeah, since then, that's grown by at least 3,000-4,000%. I have added some money since then. I've taken some money out since then, but if you kind of exclude all of that and just look at the actual percentage returns that I've made since I started investing, both in eToro, before eToro, and with crypto outside of eToro, then yeah, probably at least 4,000% in the past 10 years that I've been investing for. And a lot of that's on eToro, and actually I can show you this, which is very exciting. I mean, it's not that exciting really, but one thing it does do is it shows the compounded returns since I joined eToro here, 1,428.39%, and that's as of the end of December. So that doesn't include the extra 10% I've just made on top. So if you compound 10% on top of this, then obviously it's even higher, and it's hopefully going to continue going on that trajectory. So yeah. And that's since I joined eToro. Obviously, I did some trading before eToro. Obviously, I have things outside of eToro as well. Yeah, so I guess that hopefully answers your question. Thoughts on Polka Dot? I really like Polka Dot. I met Gavin Wood in London in 2017 following an Ethereum event, like London Ethereum meetup group or something. It was a really big event at which was it? I can't remember which university it was. I'm not sure if it was UCL or something like that. But it was one of the big unis in London. Lots of incredibly intelligent people there. A lot of ICOs and stuff pitching, but the highlight of it all was Gavin pitching Polka Dot, and it was one of the first real showings of Polka Dot that he did, because he only started working on it in 2016, and this was maybe halfway through 2017 that he was showing it off and explaining how it worked and stuff. And I came away with that very firmly thinking that when it came out, I would invest in it, and I have. Outside of eToro, I do own some Polka Dot. I really like it. I think it's got a lot of potential. I still, I'm not going to call it an Ethereum killer. I've learnt my lessons from calling Ethereum killers, but I think it's far more promising than probably any other altcoin, really, which I guess justifies why it's number 5 on CoinMarketCap at the moment, having just, or number 4 even, I think, just having surpassed Ripple or XRP. So, yeah, I like it. It's very complex. I'm not going to pretend to remember the presentation he gave on how it works and everything that it can do and why it's so fantastic. But I remember how overwhelmingly bullish I was afterwards. And again, like as I say, I met up with him in a bar afterwards and spoke to him for maybe 25 minutes, quizzing him on everything about it, inflation and all sorts of stuff, and how it connects with the change and how it handles latency and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, I came out of it very confident that it was a good project. He does give me slight Jeff Bezos vibes, though. Like, I feel like once he's made loads of money, he's going to build one of those robot suits like Jeff Bezos did and be possibly slightly evil. But that's just my opinion. I don't actually think he's evil now, as far as I'm aware. Don't forget to drink. Thank you. It's not really rehydrating as such, but at least it keeps my mouth lubricated somewhat. Someone else has asked how long do I intend to stay on eToro. As mentioned before, a very long time. I don't plan on leaving at all. And I think eToro is here for a long time to come. I think that they probably will IPO, even though that's not confirmed. I think that they will, personal opinion. Yeah, and I plan on staying as long as I can on eToro. We have a good relationship. I've been, I'm one of the oldest kind of surviving popular investors, along with a handful of others. Yepe and Mariano Pardo and Wesley, good going. There's not that many popular investors that have over 5 years of history. So that are still, still near, hanging around the top somewhere. I think I've read some of these questions. Let me scroll down a bit. I'm all over the place in this chat. I'm so sorry. Do you think Wall Street Bets is currently the single strongest financial institution? I mean, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. But the thing that concerns me about it, though, is that they're highly leveraged. There's a lot of options calls, and there's a lot of, and I mean, this is part of the danger of Wall Street Bets, right? And part of how they've become this powerful, right, is that they are uncompromisingly bullish or bearish on things that they decide to trade. So yeah, they're pretty leveraged up though, which means that if it does squeeze back down on something like GameStop, it could be very, very quickly and just churn through all of those stop losses and kind of with like a catalyst kind of effect. And yeah, liquidate them all. But at the moment, as it stands, yeah, they're pretty powerful, and it is dangerous to short against them. I mean, I would feel confident in shorting GameStop purely because I have so much experience in that industry, and in esports and in gaming and building my own PCs, like the hardware industry. In my old job, like before I was working on the esports side in game, I was working on the logistics side, and I was, having meetings with Intel and with AMD and with Nvidia about using their solutions for, all sorts of different stuff. So, I know that industry really, really well, and that's why I'm so confident that GameStop is overvalued. Um, What did you think about Airbnb? Kind of glad that you mentioned Airbnb actually, and I saw the question about GEVO. I can't remember what the actual name of the company is, but I remember the ticker. Um, so I'll answer that next. But yeah, on Airbnb, I'm actually pretty bullish on Airbnb, and I mentioned in my last stream and or maybe I didn't. I can't remember. I mentioned it in either that or the private earnings update report, the Q4 report, that I'm actually pretty bullish on Airbnb, and I think there's a lot of potential for Airbnb going forward. And I like the company, I like the business model, I like the founder. I'm pretty bullish of it, and I probably will open position in it at some point. But for the moment, I'm not. I think it will be a good recovery play. For GEVO, I can't remember the actual name of the company, so I'm going to look it up quickly so I don't sound like a complete moron. He says, without actually looking it up. Oh, actually, it's just GEVO. GEVO Inc. Yeah, so the thing that I don't like about them is that they are focused on biofuels. And biofuels are renewable energy, but they're not green energy and they're not sustainable energy. And I think actually they're really, really overpriced. I understand that in America, it's much more popular biofuels and stuff, and they're used a lot in like the agriculture industry and things like that. And I get that, but and like I mean, I'm not sure on the specific kind of the real specifics of which biofuels they're engaged in, if it's like jet fuel, or if it's like for vehicles, or if they're like cutting down forests and then harvesting energy from that, or whatever it is. But generally speaking, all of it is unsustainable. All of it has carbon emissions, as far as I'm aware, at least. So yeah, and it uses up way more like land resources and water and stuff than things like wind and solar need to. Although solar does use up quite a lot of land because people, you know, just fill entire fields with it. But generally speaking, I just don't see it as the sector that's going to really benefit. I can see that it would benefit under a Biden administration because the US has always been quite pro for those kind of fuel sources. But in the rest of the world, I think they're moving very much away from that. And I think that eventually the US will do the same. I don't think it's really long-term sustainable. So I don't like the company as a result. And also, I did do some very, very brief research on it, and I just came to the conclusion that it was also overvalued anyway. Despite that, it just felt like it was overvalued and overhyped. So yeah, that's my opinion on them. What is your score on eToro's reliability and risk for the custody of your funds? 1 being very poor and 10 being very good / no risk. I mean, well, nothing is no risk. But I mean, I would put them certainly at the upper end, like an 8 or a 9. They have an insurance policy with Lloyd's of London that will guarantee up to €1 million or dollars or pounds. Can't remember exactly. Obviously, research it yourself if you want to know. Their crypto, they have always been very good with. You've got to remember, eToro got into crypto stuff back in 2013 was when they put it on the website, and Yoni has been in the crypto space since early 2012, I think, maybe even 2011. I've been in crypto for long enough to see a lot of exchanges get hacked, a lot of data get leaked, and things like that. Nothing has ever happened like that with eToro over a very long period of time. So that on itself is impressive. On top of that, I do recall back in 2017, I think, I visited the Israel offices and stuff, and I spoke to a lot of people there and things. And I know that they use cold storage wallets, and they have very, very strict security on crypto specifically. And so I imagine that they use similarly good security regarding consumer funds. I know that consumer funds are totally separate from funds that are traded and stuff because of regulations. Yeah, there's like a lot of good things going for them in terms of security and stuff. If you go on Reddit or if you go on Trustpilot, you'll see so many people complaining that eToro didn't withdraw my funds or eToro liquidated my position or whatever. But at the end of the day, 99% of those people didn't read the terms and conditions. They didn't verify their account. Or they're in a region where the actual law changed to ban CFD products or changed what they're allowed to do regarding crypto or whatever. So eToro is in the right in like the vast majority of these cases. So that's something to consider when you're reading all of these really negative reviews. And of course, the fact that most people don't leave positive reviews when they're happy; they just don't do anything. The unhappy people are always the loudest people. Um, do you recommend to your copiers, or is it advisable to all eToro copiers to stop copying every month to get the profit, then copy again? No, that's a terrible, terrible idea. You have the profit, right? Like you have the profit from the trades that I've closed. Like if I open a trade a week ago and then I closed it today, that profit is now in my available balance and in your available balance that is assigned to copy me, right? You withdrawing that available balance and then putting it back into me again makes zero difference. Actually, all you're really doing is paying the spread fee twice. There's literally no reason to do that, not to mention the fact that you can't copy me at the moment. So if you leave me, you will not be able to rejoin for the foreseeable future. Perhaps at some point in the future, but at the moment, we have no idea when that's going to be. So don't uncopy me unless you actually really want to uncopy me. You don't need to be closing positions manually. Everything is automated. Sit back, watch a film, play some games, do something else, enjoy looking at the numbers, ask some questions, join the community, have a chat. But there's no reason for you to do anything else, right? If you've chosen to copy me, then I'm assuming it's because you believe in my strategy and my past performance and that I'm going to repeat it. So let me do it, and I'll do it, or I try to. Yeah. Which broker do you use apart from eToro? None. I only use eToro. I do have crypto on other exchanges and wallets outside of eToro, but that's mainly just because I had it before. I guess long before, not long before I started using eToro, but I had it before I was using eToro. What do you think of Nordex? I'm not actually aware of Nordex. I don't think. Maybe I'll recognize them. Huh. They're actually a wind company that I didn't know about. That's really weird. How big are they? How have I not heard of these people? This is crazy. This is like a revelation. They're on the Copenhagen market though, which means I probably wouldn't have enough liquidity to trade them, unfortunately. Oh no, they're actually on the German market. But I think they're a Danish company, maybe? No, they're a German company. Okay. Interesting. Well, thanks for making me aware of it. I'll have a look at them. Their P ratio is insane. It's substantially higher than the others that I'm currently invested in. Yeah, I guess I'll take a look at it. There's not really too much, use of me looking at it now while you guys are on the stream. But I will take a look at it after the stream is finished. So, and actually, I'm pretty embarrassed now because I was talking earlier about how important it is to look at a lot of companies in the sectors that you're investing in and understand the competitors. And clearly, I don't know as much as I should about at least this company, but they are a lot smaller than the others I'm investing in. They've only got a market cap of $4 billion, and it looks like they've got a pretty inflated share price, whereas VWS is like 50 billion and Orsted is like 100 billion. So, they're a pretty small company in the space, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't learn about them, and I will take a look at them. But their PE ratio is literally like 4 times as high as the other two companies I just mentioned in the wind space. So, yeah. But thanks for bringing it to my attention, and I'm sorry that I couldn't give you a better answer. Did you just say 100k small amount? Well, I mean, it's small relative to me. Obviously, it's a life-changing amount of money. Even for me, 5 years ago, it would have been life-changing amount of money. Do you think AMD will dominate the ARM chips market? No, actually, I don't think they will. I'm not sure who will, really. It's very hard to say. There's a lot is riding on the companies that Intel and AMD and Nvidia have been looking to purchase. But if I were to bet, I would say that I mean, it's not so much in the PC market, but Qualcomm are obviously already in a very good position because they use ARM a lot already. Uh, and I think probably I would say that Intel are in a reasonable position if they decide to really go for it. Because the thing is, AMD is onto something good at the moment, right? And if you're onto something good, then the like opportunity, like the difference between that and what they would be changing to by building on ARM, isn't as big as the gap that would exist for Intel. So the incentive for Intel to just give up on what they're doing and shift to ARM and really like properly go for it is substantially greater than AMD's. So they have more incentive to go for it if they decide to do that. So I would say they're possibly more likely to, and they have a lot more cash available to do that as well, to kind of throw into projects like that. But I don't. I think AMD is one of the least likely to really be leading it at the moment, at least. But as I say, that space is moving really quickly, so we'll see. I know this is strange, but I'm going to very quickly go to the toilet while you guys are waiting here. I'm really sorry, but I'm dying for the toilet, so I'm going to leave you guys on my holding screen for a bit, and I'll be back in like 2 minutes or 1 minute. I'll be as quick as I can, I promise. Oh, that's the wrong screen. There you go. Nothing like some downtime to really keep up the engagement. Sorry about that. Where was I? That's better. Man, there's still a lot of you here. Why don't you ride the GME run? I explained my views on the fundamentals, and I don't trade against fundamentals because I think it's risky, or at least not very often. And also, I think it's already run. It's already run so far. There's so much risk in trying to go long on GME now. So much risk. Voted Remain. Going to sell my house to get away from, quote, experts like you. England is corrupt. I also want to leave England. I want to be in Scotland because Scotland voted Remain, and I like Scotland, and I voted Remain, and I'm very open about that and my politics. So if you still hate me, so be it. But just FYI, I was not pro Brexit, and yeah, it's the way it is. Will you release the profits? Again, like I feel like this is another important thing to cover for new copiers. That's not how it works on eToro. When you copy, the profits are kept within the copy so that I can continue to compound them and continue to grow it. If you choose to take a profit, then you are potentially lowering the amount that I can earn for you in future. But obviously, that's your choice. So it's not up to me to release the profits or do anything like that. It's entirely in your hands when you want to stop the copy or pause the copy to withdraw some of the profits. That's up to you. But generally speaking, I advise people to invest long term and think long term. This you should be investing long term. Saving for the big things in life, or buying a house or buying a car or retirement or whatever it happens to be. But generally, it's only milestone events that really you should be thinking about taking money out of investments for. That's the point of investing, I guess, is to build your wealth for the really big expenditures in life. One day this year, can we do a live trade stream? I don't think there's much to watch, to be honest. I said that before. I don't think there's very much to be watching. Um, I used to be more active than I am. I mean, I know I do a lot of trades these days, but a lot of it is actually cycling positions to ensure that copiers stay synchronized as best as possible, so that your results very closely match my results on eToro. Um, so I mean, yeah, like, and also when I did do that and when I did try that, what I found is that I spent far more time doing things that I wouldn't normally do, right? Because as I said, I can't stream me looking through some of the tools that I use for fundamental analysis, and also fundamental analysis is ultimately very boring for most people to watch, and not enjoyable. So it would be a really boring stream if you actually saw what I was doing every day. And also, as I said, I can't show you what I'm doing every day because of the terms and conditions of those different tools that I use. So yeah, when I've done it before, I found that I've actually performed worse, and I felt worse, and it's been more tiring, and it's just not a good use of my time, really. I don't think. Uh, when do you usually take holidays? Do you work alone? That's a good question. So obviously, I basically take a day off anytime the US market takes a day off. So Martin Luther King Day was obviously recently. That was a day off for me. The same obviously goes for Labor Day and Thanksgiving. All of those US holidays for the market, I basically take as kind of days off. Sometimes if the markets are quiet, I can kind of just leave it and have a semi day off. I'm always kind of having access to the markets at least and checking it. But when things are calmer, generally, I'm not too uncomfortable going out to London for the day to, I don't know, go to the zoo with my girlfriend or something. I can still check on my phone and still keep track of things. And my strategy doesn't require me to be looking at it 100% of the time. It's beneficial if I am, but it doesn't require it. So there's that. Also, in terms of, do I work alone? My girlfriend works for me a couple of days a week and helps me with mainly admin stuff and kind of sorting through things. I am working with a contractor that's helping on a bunch of branding stuff, helping me rebuild the new website at the moment. Yeah, hopefully more stuff in the future. I speak with a lot of other investors and traders and kind of share ideas and bounce ideas around with them. And I potentially want to hire an analyst at some point as well, to help with the research side of things. But at the moment, I don't have one. So that's kind of the situation in terms of how I'm set up, I guess. And I'm not unhappy with the work life balance at the moment. It can be a bit frustrating. Sometimes I do wish I could just have an entire week where I just don't have to look at it at all. But those are pretty fleeting moments. I'm kind of addicted to it to some sense. So uh, I would get bored without it anyway. And I enjoy it. But it would be nice to know that there's someone else that I could kind of hand it over to or something, for like a day or two, and just say, if a World War III breaks out, do X, Y, and Z, or let them, or trust them to make those decisions or whatever. But as I said, like I don't really feel like it's actually that necessary at the moment. But as the amount of money riding on me increases, then it will be increasingly necessary, which is why I want to look for an analyst and stuff to try and decrease my workload so that I can take more time off if I need to. But at the moment, I'm pretty happy. How much profit in percentage is your target for this year? It's the one. Look, I mean, I I kind of give targets on profit of like 40% on average per year, but that's really over a longer time frame. Over a 10-year period, I would like on average to make 40% per year. That might mean that some years I make 5%, and some years I make 100%. But yeah, 40% is really what I'm kind of aiming at over the really long term. I think realistically I can exceed that, because of the style of investing that I do. But I think that's also a realistic expectation. I want to make sure that my copiers have realistic expectations. The thing to consider, right, is that realistically my job is to fight and to beat the underlying market. So if the market makes 60% one year, then and I only make 50%, then that's me underperforming, and I want to beat that. At the same time, if the market drops by 20% in a real bear market one year, and I drop by 5%, as far as I'm concerned, that's a victory. Because again, I'm thinking long term, right? My money is going to be in eToro. I hope, unless eToro disappears or something, for decades, and so one bad year isn't going to stop me from continuing to invest and executing my strategy. And I'm hoping that rubs off on my copiers as well, and that my copiers see it similarly, in a similar way, right? You shouldn't be investing with just 1 year in mind, or even 2. You should be thinking longer term than that. So yeah. You said have a second account, Jaynemesis 2. Can one open 2 accounts? I believe the limit for eToro is 2 accounts, yes. But it may vary on regions and stuff like that, so don't hold me to it. Do you think there's a chance Bitcoin will fall under 10K in 2021? I think it's incredibly unlikely. Under 20K is possible, but also pretty unlikely. Under 10K is very unlikely. If you're looking for a dip to buy in Bitcoin, you're looking at it. Yeah. So Wesley helping answer questions. If you're not copying me and you're looking for someone to copy, Wesley is a good person to check out. Doesn't necessarily mean that's not an endorsement. That's just me saying you should look at him and other people as well. How is your mental health and general life quality holding up being a full-time trader? I mean, my mental health, I think, is fine, but it has taken some adapting to, especially when I first started to manage more money. But after a while, you kind of forget about the amount of money that's riding on the trades, and you just see everything as percentages, and it makes everything an awful lot easier. I'd be lying if there are still, trades that I get really frustrated by, and I'm kicking myself about something that I've done wrong, or if I were to say that I never kind of FOMO'd into a trade. Of course I have occasionally, but I think generally I manage it pretty well. I think I'm pretty okay at managing my emotions. I mean, I never really get like properly angry and stuff like that or anything. So I'm pretty decent at managing those kind of emotions, and certainly in terms of anything that would impact my performance or trading. Outside of that, in terms of impacting me as a human being, it's weird. My life is trading, really. Everything I do always comes back to trading. My girlfriend gets very bored of me turning everything we're doing into something that's related to investing. But I watch a show on Netflix and I start thinking about, I wonder how well this is going to go down with the Netflix audience, and if this is helping retention, and if that means that Netflix is going to have a blowout quarter, and I say that as if like you're probably thinking, yeah, right, you think that, but I mean, like, genuinely, Queen's Gambit, things like that. I'm like, wow, this is a big show. This is a big hit for Netflix. It's another good thing, and it's around the holiday season. Maybe this is the kind of thing that's going to keep people on Netflix. Like, these are real thoughts that I have about companies. The same with car companies. The same with everything. Like, everything just kind of goes back to companies. Like, I see a new food product come out from Birdseye that made a new plant-based chicken nugget, and I start thinking, I wonder who owns Birdseye. Is it Nestle? Is it someone else? What are they doing? How many plant-based products do I have? I end up looking up all their products online because I ate a chicken nugget or a fake chicken nugget. You just kind of embrace that lifestyle. It doesn't really impact my mental health at all. I think that's just the way I am and the way I think about things. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy. I really like my work-life balance. I think my girlfriend's okay with it. Maybe she'd prefer if I could like switch it off a bit more, but I think she's probably just grown used to it by now. Copy you since May, and I wanted to add even more funds, but you said that it won't be used before a long time because of eToro block. Idea on when you'll be able to have copiers sync in new funds. Yeah, so like again, there's no time limit on when they're going to unblock me. So if you want to add funds and you're copying me for the long term, just add them. It's that simple, really. There's really no point in delaying it, especially since it's not even about timing it, because it's copying new trades only. There really is literally nothing to think about. If you have the money, you want to invest it, you've made the decision that you're going to invest it, and you're investing for the long term, just do it. That's it, really. Obviously, it's up to you at the end of the day, but that's my opinion on it. Do you expect Tattooed Chef earnings on the 8th of February to be extremely positive or just above average this year? I mean, I think the trend of veganuary is not to be underestimated. So Tattooed Chef, Beyond Meat and stuff, I expect their earnings to benefit from veganuary. Generally, the build up to it, and of course the actual additional sales that come from it. Um, do I expect their earnings to actually beat? Um, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and really, and this is something that I do when it gets closer to earnings, is I look through companies and look at their previous earnings and check how many times they beat. Do they just set really easy targets for themselves, and do analysts always underestimate them? So yeah, it's hard to say without me like going back and actually looking at the numbers and double checking. But yeah, I wouldn't have invested in them if I didn't think that there would be earnings, because if they were bang on their numbers, then theoretically the analysts get it right and the price doesn't change very much. So yeah, I'm bullish on them, but I'm also thinking more long term than just this quarter. So um, why does the stop loss on crypto only 25%? I don't get it. I don't know. I don't get it either. I think it was a really bad decision by eToro, and they know that. They know my opinion on it. So I believe their thinking behind it was to do with like slippage and stuff, and that they didn't want people. They were getting a lot of complaints because obviously there's a lot of new people to investing and trading who don't really understand how slippage works, and so they were expecting the stop loss to always hit exactly where they set it. In the real world, things don't work like that, especially in volatile markets. They can't guarantee that your stop loss is actually going to execute at that price. Um, and because there have been a lot of, I mean, like the traders, the traders who are like day traders and stuff in crypto, we'll call them scam wicks, where a candle just wicks way down because someone's accidentally put in an order that's totally wrong, or because there's like a little flash crash or something. Um, that's happened in cryptocurrency a lot, and that would technically trigger your stop loss even if the price just dipped by like 50% for 5 seconds and then went back up. That could trigger your stop loss and stuff. So I think that's the reason that they did it. But I think realistically, it should probably be for the consumers to decide if they want to take that risk or not. Um, and that, the investors need to just educate themselves about those risks existing with stop losses, because the same thing applies with real stocks. They could have flash crashes and execute the stop loss that we didn't want it to execute and suffer from slippage. I can't believe how much Wesley's just like hanging out in the chat, just answering people's questions. Kind of cool though. You're welcome to stay, Wesley. I don't know if he's still here. I'm so far behind in chat. This is like 2 hours ago, probably. More questions. More questions. I've answered that one. See, I'm starting to get to some of the repeat questions now, which is why, as I say, like try not to just spam your question in, because, yeah, just kind of wastes chat space, I guess. HSBC again, answered that. Any opinions on following services? Benzinga, StockTwits, Motley Fool. I like StockTwits, but mainly for the memes. Zacks, Motley. I don't like Motley Fool. Don't really like Zacks. TipRanks is pretty decent. I quite like TipRanks. I've never used or looked at Benzinga, so yeah. I guess I went through those in a terrible order, but those are my thoughts on them. What's your favorite type of potato? The fried type with as little actual potato in it as possible. um, Which stock that is not on eToro do you want to invest in most? TSMC, Taiwanese Semiconductors, and also probably, so CRISPR was on the list, but they just got added. I also really like ITM on the London stock market. I also really like their hydrogen company. I also really like Corsair. I liked them since their IPO. There's quite a few SPACs that are pretty interesting. But yeah, TSMC is probably at the top of the list. I don't know why eToro haven't added it yet. eToro, if you're watching, add TSMC like immediately. Immediately. It's a hype stock. Everyone wants it. I want it. Most importantly. Modding is a full-time job. When did you go vegan and why? I went vegan in 20. When was it? I've been vegan for almost 2 years now. So yeah, 2019. I went vegan spur of the moment with zero research because I realized the environmental cost. I'm an environmentalist. That's why I went vegan. I was always kind of aware of the animal rights issues, but not as much as I discovered when I really kind of delved into it. And that's become, a contributor to why I'm vegan now, I guess you could say, a major part of it. And yeah, the health benefits are appealing as well, although I don't benefit from them because my diet is horrendous. But it's appealing, um, if maybe one day I improve my diet. But mainly I just eat Pringles. That's what I tell everyone. Pringles are vegan. Not all Pringles, not all flavors, but the ones I like for the most part, they're vegan. And they're terrible for you. Lots of carbs. You missed Jade juggling blindfolded. Congratulate you for your work. Have a nice day. Thanks. Speaking of which, I'm actually just gonna switch tabs quickly. Just trying to keep an eye on how we're doing today, and things are going nicely. The cryptos are bouncing back up. The markets are pretty flat, really, but the stocks that I'm in are doing pretty nicely. Very much enjoying being right about Ford and VW at the moment. That's my favorite. That's what I'm feeling today. I'm feeling very proud of my decisions taken 12 to 18 months ago to start investing in both Ford and VW that have finally starting to bear some real fruits. I mean, they've done okay. Most of that time they've been pretty flat, but yeah. Can you describe a typical day of trading and how often you manage to get away from it all and recharge? We need you fit and healthy for years to come, please. Yeah, it depends. It varies on day to day. I don't have any sort of routine really. It depends on if it's earnings season or not. If it is, then most of my focus will just be around trying to squeeze in as many earnings calls as I can and listen to them. But if we just assume that we're not during earnings season, pretty much browsing the news after I've woken up, checking pre-market, see where things are sitting before the US Open or European markets. Normally I wake up after the European markets are open, but sometimes I wake up before, it depends. Checking how European markets are going and all of my positions and just kind of taking a look through them all, how much they're up and down, what's moving, what's not. Checking the news generally for the world, pretty much. Some good Reddits for that if you're on Reddit. There's a Reddit called World News, which actually is pretty good for finding out about countries that you don't normally get that much coverage of. Check websites like Seeking Alpha and stuff for stock-focused news. I often turn Bloomberg on in the morning and watch Bloomberg for about an hour or so just to catch up on relevant stock-related news. And then throughout the day, reallocate as and where I see fit. If there's anything that I had planned, sometimes I'll see that something's overvalued and I'll take a bit of short-term profit, or I'll see a good opportunity in something that's undervalued, so I'll take a bit of short-term profit and move it over into that. It's normally a stock that I'm already invested in or a stock that I've been invested in and been researching beforehand. Once the markets have been open for a while, that's usually when I'll start watching YouTube videos or listening to audiobooks, usually about the markets. And then also, if I'm not watching those things, then I will be reading stuff and delving into the fundamentals of stocks. Charting is something that I only really do when I'm looking at an entry or an exit. And even then, I don't do it that much, especially on stocks, but I use it a lot more on cryptocurrencies. I have 4 screens, so I have charts, 4 charts up open for stocks, 2 of which are always indices, and 2 of which are always just stocks that I'm watching. And the same for cryptocurrency. I have the market cap dominance and the CIX 100 index of altcoins. So that helps me kind of see what altcoins are doing compared to Bitcoin. And then I have Bitcoin up all of the time. And then I rotate between Ethereum and other stocks on the last stock on that screen. And then, yeah, I just, eat when I'm hungry, drink when I'm thirsty, play games when I'm like exhausted or have had enough. Even when the markets are open, I'll very often open Trackmania or Civilization or something and play for like an hour or something. Usually, again, while I'm watching videos or have other content that's related to the markets playing, or Bloomberg. And then, yeah, go back to it. Always try and be around for market open and market close, generally speaking. That's when most of the volatility is. That's it, really. Sometimes I'll stay awake all the way through the Asian market, especially if I've got trades in mind, or if Bitcoin is and cryptocurrencies are volatile, then I'll stay up pretty late. Yeah, that's a summary, I guess. And weekends I chillax, mainly, unless Bitcoin's going crazy. Have you ever thought of mentoring? No. uh, some amusing comments. Robert Mack just made a video about that. That's probably about when I was talking about the scams and stuff. Yeah, I actually watched that video just before this, but I watched another video about it a few days before, which I also mentioned in the comments of his video. But it's been a thing that's been going on for a while now, so yeah. You mean we shouldn't invest based on FOMO? Damn, yeah, sorry. Ivory on Tech sold out. Yep, totally agreed. Any good material to read/watch for beginners who are looking to start trading? Babypips.com and investopedia.com are the 2 most important websites for learning how to trade and how to invest, how to analyze all of that stuff. They are the 2 resources you need. Do not pay for online courses unless you like burning money. You can learn everything you need to learn for free on YouTube, on Baby Pips, on Investopedia. Between those 3, you should basically have access to everything. But yeah, be very wary of anyone that's a guru. Be very wary of anyone that says that you can make 1% a day or even 1% a week. Anyone that is trading on a platform that you don't have that much experience on. Anyone who trades on MetaTrader. MetaTrader is really easy to fake data on. Yeah, anyone who sells anything generally, if they're trying to sell you something on their YouTube video, if they have a course, if they have books, if they have stuff like that, most of the time that's because they're not very good at trading. Most of the time. There are a few exceptions, but most of the time it's because they don't make enough money from trading, so they make it elsewhere by teaching people how to trade, even though they're not good at it. How did you get into trading? Advice on how to start and learn. Well, I've just given you the 3 resources, but in terms of how I started, I was always interested in it. I started watching Bloomberg and CNBC from the age of like 13, and ever since then, it's just been a passion of mine. And I learned using investopedia.com. I didn't use Baby Pips because I'm not sure if it was actually a thing at the time. And yeah, start slow. Stop trying to trade. Start trying to invest. Start by investing. Long term is easier than short term, generally speaking, and stick to things that you know. Those are what I would suggest, really, for anyone that's new. Not sure how. I'm actually catching up with the chat now. Small amount copier. Would you recommend copying you like a month to get the profit, then reinvest? No, keep it invested. You do not need to withdraw profits. I mentioned that earlier in the stream as well. And probably someone's already replied to you with the answer to that comment because my chat is really kind and they always like helping people, apparently. And my mods. Big shout out to the mods who've done an amazing job because I mean, like, I asked Felix, who's one of the mods, I asked him to do this like the day I was streaming, I think, for the last stream, and he just turned up and, you know, helped so much. So yeah, really appreciative. Online shopping in Jumia will shift to online from physical stores. Who do you think can be the big winner? I mean, online shopping just generally is always going to be a big winner. And interestingly, potentially even plays around land and warehousing and stuff around that could be interesting. And delivery companies, companies who sell vans. You know, another reason that I'm invested in Ford, as much as people, you know, like to maybe think that it's just because I bought a Mustang. I like the fact that they have one of the best-selling vans in the world, the Ford Transit, which they're making electric. So they're going to have probably the first decent-sized electric van on market with good range, like good quality van on market. Because there are some on market already, and Renault's got the Kangoo, which is a good small delivery van. The same with trucks. The F-150 is going to be the first electric truck on market that's good. Maybe Rivian will actually release before then. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, like delivery companies are also another way of playing that trend. So you can invest either in the vehicles that they're using, or you can invest in the actual delivery companies. UPS and FedEx have dropped a good amount recently. They're pretty attractive right now for if you wanted to pick something up on your own. It's not a tip, it's not a hint, it's not a signal. Do your own research, but I think that you know, they're a good way of playing that if that's what you want to play. And they give nice dividends. Do you know about Wall Street Bets on Reddit? If so, what do you think of it? Yeah, I've known about Wall Street Bets for ages. I've been following Wall Street Bets for years and years and years. I find it very amusing. um, I think it's kind of got a bit out of control recently, though. I think the Twitter account was just weird. It feels like they're really actually kind of just turning into like a pump and dump group, and it's actually losing a lot of the charm that it had. Like, you know, it used to be a place where people would just be like, I found this random company and I've leveraged far more than I should have, and I'm YOLOing, and so far I've made more profit than, you know, than I've ever made in my entire life. And last week I lost everything. You know, like that was the charm of it. And actually sometimes it was, you found some real gems in there, some real good research. But recently it feels like because of the wave of new retail investors, people just go on there to find whatever is most popular and they just go into it. And you know, and it's like this little self-fulfilling prophecy in little bubble land. And honestly, it feels really pump and dumpy, and I don't like that. And it's pretty upsetting, I guess, to see a community that I really enjoyed turn that way. But I guess I experienced the same thing with Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency Reddits to some extent as well. You know, when retail really came in big numbers, the amount of actual good content and the charm and the community kind of lost itself a bit. to just people that wanted to pump and dump. So yeah, a bit of a shame, but I still go on there. I still check it like not most days, but like at least like once a week or something. I'll go on there and read a few posts. It's really boring recently because everyone's talking about GME. I've been in the comments of a few of them arguing with them about it because I think it's just, as I said, I voiced my opinions earlier on GME, but I like it. It's fun. Oh yeah, 2020. Thanks for pointing that out. Um, I don't know if Leanne's already changed the title of the screen, but of the stream. But if you haven't, Leanne, could you change it so it says 2021? Because apparently I'm living in the past. Also, is that bad boy from Among Us? I play a lot of Among Us. That's one of the games I didn't mention. I play a lot of Among Us. It's really fun, and a bunch of the people that I play Among Us with have stumbled onto my stream or have asked me about stuff and realised what I do. And come in here to check me out, I guess. And I'm not sure if that's the bad boy that I play with or if that's just someone else with the same name. Do you follow any copy portfolios? I do not really. But I think there are some good ones. But we need Felix Falax here to answer questions. Yeah, I like Felix Falax. Can you talk about correction strategies? I see you only have 2% balance. Of course, I'm diversifying, but just curious to know. Yeah, if you look at, I mean, part of my strategy with corrections, right, is to predict them. That's the first thing, right? If I can predict it, then I have plenty of time to move things around and change my approach. And that's what I did with COVID, right? I saw it coming in February. I butchered my portfolio. Somehow my copies didn't really notice. Like no one, no one was really commenting on it. But I was making posts in February about COVID and saying that it's a big concern. I think the market's going to correct. And yeah, so I just repositioned the portfolio accordingly. Realistically, the markets very rarely have a down day that's more than like 5%, even during like big, like the starts of bear markets and big corrections, sharp corrections. It's very rare you get a day of drawdown more than 5%, right? And so since 5% is like my average month, um, even if I just adjust that quickly, like after one day during that day, if I adjust to it, if I see it and I adjust to it and recognize it during that day, then that means I've still got a really good chance of ending that month at somewhere around break even potentially, if I do a good job. So, I mean, that's part of the way I think about it. Obviously, it depends on if it's a real bear market or if it's just a correction, right? You can just sit them out, and I think a lot of popular investors proved that this year with COVID. The likes of Jeppe Kirkbond and some of the other value investors, they just stuck to their guns, right? They believed in the fundamentals of their companies, and they believed that the economy would recover, and they just waited it out and it worked out for them. So that is an option as well. But generally, I like to go down the hedging route and use leverage for my hedges as well. So it's pretty easy for me to essentially transition into a bit more of a long short portfolio. And I will short companies that I think are going to lose out from whatever it is that's causing this correction. And I will remain long on the companies that I'm really confident in. And I will take out some of the profits to use on things like gold or silver or cryptocurrency or indices or bonds. Uh, that's quite a lot of ors there, but on those things, often with leverage, to help kind of just dampen the blow a bit. Really, as I said, losing money when you're in a bear market or when you're in a big correction is fine as long as you're losing less than the market, generally speaking, because markets tend to go up over time. So as long as you're beating the market, you're doing okay. If you're able to keep it at break even, that's fantastic. If you manage to actually make a profit out of it, then that's insane, and you should be jumping around in jubilation. Done a Google search, Energize Africa. Yep, that's the company that I mentioned earlier, Energize Africa, for investing in solar bonds. Not just solar, they do a few other things on there as well, but it's good because you help Africa develop more quickly and you know, improve people's lives in a really tangible way. But they are unsecured, so keep that in mind. It is risky. There's a lot of terms and conditions and a lot of stuff to read. I remember there was a lot of forms involved. But yeah, it's a cool little website. Recently started copying you before you were blocked. I know you say to add funds as and when you want, but would you recommend adding funds monthly if you have money available for this instead of gathering it up in your bank account? It depends, right? You need to have a sensible amount of money in your bank account, right? There are going to be periods of time when it's going to be the worst timing in the world for you to be withdrawing from me, and that could span months. That could span 6 months, it could span a year, it could span 2 years. People who copied me right at the end of 2017, right at the very top, had to wait 2 years almost, like 1.5 years before they got back to the value that they started at, because 2018 was so bad. Now, I've taken precautions to make sure 2018 doesn't happen again, but that doesn't mean that it never will or that it can't, right? It could happen again. And so you need to be prepared for that. You need to be prepared for your funds to be essentially locked into this copy for years. You need to think in terms of years, not months or days or weeks. So keep a sensible amount in your bank for emergencies, if you need to fix your car or do whatever it is you want to do, if you want to go on holiday. And then, if you have extra left over, then sure, you can add every month. You could add every week if you wanted to. Just make sure you've got a bit of a safety net. You are the Yoda of eToro, wise and green. Amazing. Execute. I think the questions are starting to dry up. I'm going to scroll to the bottom of. Actually, they haven't dried up at all. Oh my days! I scrolled and it just loaded way more chat. I was going to say I might end it here because questions are drying up because there haven't been any in a while, but maybe there are more further down. I'm sure there are some that I missed, which is what I was about to say. I was going to ask Slug and Felix and some of the others if they want to type questions that I'm missing into Discord to highlight them for me, then I can try and answer them that way. I'll answer a few more while I'm waiting, just in case there are any that they can see people that have asked numerous times that I haven't answered, for example. What are your thoughts on the newsfeed and eToro's notifications about various share and coin jumps? It seems to me a bit crazy mess, undermines pretty awesome proposition of their platform. Yeah, I think the problem is that eToro has grown an awful lot since they implemented the newsfeed in what is essentially its current form. They've made a lot of improvement to threads and replying to people and stuff like that. That used to be really clunky, and now it's really quite nice. But yeah, I think they need to kind of help filter content a bit more and have a more curated newsfeed. The pinned posts are good on different assets. In many cases, it's better to just go to an asset and then see what the pinned post is, than it is to just look at your newsfeed. Because sometimes there's a lot of garbage going around of people just sharing, I made 25% on this or whatever. The notifications on share prices going up and down, yeah, I'm not a massive fan of it, but that's mainly because I don't know about you, but for me it includes a lot of things that I'm totally uninterested in. And it feels like they're almost just trying to promote that you should trade this thing because it's volatile. And maybe that is kind of curated, and they have analyzed it themselves and they think it's a good opportunity for their users and they're trying to highlight it to their users. But I don't know, I'm not a massive fan of it. I think the notification system generally needs reworking. I get thousands of notifications a day, even now, even that I'm not getting the "you have a new copy" of notifications. I still have a stupid number of notifications that makes it pretty impossible to really navigate. So yeah, I think the newsfeed needs some work, but I don't think it's terrible. It's still perfectly usable. You just kind of have to learn, where it falls a little bit short and how to kind of work around it a bit. But there's good content on the newsfeed if you look around. Someone's asking about protein from insects. I wonder if that's the guy that asked me on Twitter the other day about protein from insects. I mean, I'm a vegan, but at the end of the day, in terms of like sustainability for the planet, from that side of things, yeah, it's very sustainable. Um, we've got plenty of insects, and they're easy to make more of. And so, yeah, protein from insects is reasonable. Entirely unnecessary, but reasonable, I guess. Maybe that will take off in some regions of the world. I don't think it will. I think plant-based protein will take off much more than that. Um, and lab-grown meat, to be honest. I think those are the two things that are going to win out. I don't know if that was a question, but Slugs just highlighted it and tagged me, so I guess it was a question from someone. I used to work in a lab where they researched bacteria that would produce hydrogen using photosynthesis. That's cool. How would it photosynthesize? I guess. I guess technically they make oxygen already, right? Through photosynthesis, essentially. And obviously hydrogen is part of oxygen. So maybe there's a way of doing. I don't know. I don't know enough science to know how that would work, but that sounds kind of cool if that's legit. Maybe I don't know if you'd have to like genetically modify the plants. Maybe there's plants that do it already. I'm sure there are. There's all sorts of weird plants in the world. What about Trig, the Renewables Infrastructure Group? Yeah, I really liked Trig for a long time, but it just wasn't moving enough. It's a really good safe play. If you think the markets are overvalued and you still want exposure to renewables, it's a pretty safe play because they basically just own a bunch of renewable stuff, and that's it. It's nice. They just own assets essentially. Really clean books, like no debt or anything like that. So yeah, pretty nice. I mean, unless it's changed. Pretty nice company, but a bit too safe, I think, really for me. Jay's winning at life. He's making money from trading and getting paid by eToro to do it. Yeah, it's pretty good. What do you think of a Wall Street Bet ETF tracking Wall Street Bet hype? Could have potential. There's definitely potential for someone to make like an algorithm that looks for sentiment from Wall Street Bets, I'm sure. Thank God, Jay, you didn't short GME. You said you would if eToro allowed it. I was scared. I still would. I still think it's overvalued. Just because it's been overvalued for 4 days in a row does not mean that it's not going to collapse. Like, you know, at the end of the day, eventually these people are going to want to take profits. And when they do that, there's going to be no buyers left for those shares because nobody sensible is buying at this price. Only insane people are. Jesus, keep up the awesome work. I think without eToro, I couldn't trade. Questions. Felix has got a question for me. What markets do you think have the strongest recovery post-COVID? Well, China, Australia, New Zealand, Oceania generally, perhaps even Japan, although Japan's not the best economically speaking as a country. Those regions have been dramatically kind of able to avoid most of the problems really after the start of it at least. So yeah, there's definitely good potential there. I do think that the market is very US focused at the moment, and there's good opportunities elsewhere, and we're seeing that play out. Europe's had a nice rally over the past week or so in a lot of their stocks. Um, I think look at the countries that are vaccinating quickly. There's a lot of good companies based out of Israel. I mentioned that earlier. UK is looking like a really attractive place to start investing now that Brexit's kind of out of the way. Kind of. The economy is still going to be hurt, but to some extent, you could say that for business, it's a good time to be like expanding into the UK or taking advantage of it, because a lot of companies aren't. So companies that are focusing on that market have a good chance to increase market share. There was some news yesterday about Nissan, that Nissan is expecting to do really well in the UK now, and basically the reason for that is that all of their competitors are moving things out of the UK and losing that advantage because they want to focus more on Europe. Nissan has decided to stay in the UK and focus on trying to capture some of that market that's leaving. So, there's opportunities in the UK definitely, and we're vaccinating pretty quickly against COVID here. And as I said, Brexit really depressed the markets in the UK, so there's some good opportunities. Yeah, I think that's it really. Southeast Asia, generally that region, Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, Philippines, Indonesia, those countries, Vietnam, those countries are all developing really quickly. Just all sorts of cool growth going on and innovation going on in those regions. So there's good opportunities there. I haven't really looked into them too much because most of those countries don't have anything on eToro. But it's certainly something to keep an eye on. My name's not James. there's like a collection of people that keep calling me James, but my name is Jay, not James. What do you think of many big-time billionaires like Ray Dalio predicting a 40% plus market crash in the next year or so? I think probably he just is getting a bit old and doesn't understand a lot of the growth industries as well. I mean, people said the same thing about the internet and stuff. And yeah, there was a dot-com bubble, right? But I would hope that if you pick the right horses, you're still going to come out on top. Like it didn't take that long to recover from the dot-com bubble, for example, even after the crash. And I think investors are a bit more savvy these days, and it's easier to find good information and good fundamentals and stuff. Uh, so yeah, I think 40% sounds like a lot to me. Maybe it could happen, but I don't think it's like the most likely scenario. What do you think about Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna? Do you think it's a good investment? No, I think most of those companies aren't going to make very much money selling it, selling the vaccine. I don't really believe in pharmaceutical and healthcare companies that much anyway, because I think it's kind of unethical that they make these vast amounts of profit from things that I feel should just be open source government funded. I think all science really should essentially just be government funded and for the benefit of everyone, not the benefit of a company. That's one of my big problems actually with some of the genetics CRISPR technology stuff is that in some cases they're trying to essentially set up a copyright on genetics on like specific combinations of genes and stuff, and that's just pretty scary stuff, and not good for society overall, I think. But the pros potentially outweigh the cons. In this situation, though, I think it's a very crowded market as well, very crowded trade. I think a lot of retail investors, especially, look at it like it's going to be a good investment. But I think there's better stuff elsewhere. What is your most percent profit? What trade? I don't know. I mean, I cycle trades, but I keep the overall position and exposure for a very long time in most cases. So I mean, you could say something like AMD. I've been investing in AMD since it was $6, $6 or $7. So obviously that's seen 1,500% gains almost since then. Or you could point to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. You could point to a bunch of stuff really. Even boring ones that lots of people have been on board with, like Apple or Amazon. even they've gone up by hundreds of percent over the past few years. So I can't think of like a specific individual trade though. I think things are dying down, so I'm gonna give it like a couple more minutes just in case anyone wants to write any more questions in my Discord that I need to answer. But I think probably we're done. Thoughts on XRP? I did see that mentioned a couple of times. Yeah, I think they were irresponsible and honestly incompetent not to have reached a deal um, over the securities fraud stuff. Well, it's not really fraud, but illegal security sales. So yeah. I mean that shows that pure incompetence as far as I'm concerned. So whatever was going for XRP is no longer going for XRP. They've proven that they really don't care about, or they're just bad. They're just bad at basic decision making. Why would you let that turn into such a massive storm like that when EOS and Telegram both negotiated deals which didn't destroy their reputation for what's meant to be a coin for banking and stuff. It's just yeah, not good. Um, what have the FCA changes to crypto trades meant for my strategy? Not that much. So I can't short at the moment, and that is a bit frustrating because I would have shorted, and I did spot this drop coming. If you check my portfolio, the recent drop in cryptocurrencies and Ethereum and Bitcoin that took place over the weekend, essentially, or a bit into this week. It was building up over the weekend, and I'd been watching it through the week, and I reduced exposure, especially to Bitcoin. And ordinarily, I probably would have opened one or two shorts, day trades on it. Realistically, how much of an impact has that made? Maybe I would have made 5% on those shorts on like 1% of my portfolio. And those situations aren't that common. So, in the grand scheme of things, you're talking about a very negligible difference in my profit loss. And I'm hopeful that maybe there will be other solutions that don't require CFD. I never used leverage on cryptocurrencies anyway, so that doesn't affect me at all. So yeah, it's only really shorting that's affected me. Okay, I think that's gonna do for now. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm so far behind chat. I'm trying to scroll to get to the bottom of the chat just to see what you're all typing as I'm like signing off. Oh, there is one more question. Felix has just given me another one. Okay, this is going to be the last question though, and then otherwise you'll have to wait until my next Q&A stream. Last question: any resources or websites on renewable industry in general, or renewable stocks? Yeah, trying to think of some of them. I mean, like websites and blogs that are actually focused around the EV industry cover a lot of renewable stuff, like Transport Evolved, stuff like that. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I mean, I don't really keep them bookmarked. I just see them linked everywhere because I follow companies on Twitter and stuff in the industry. I mean, that's another thing you can do is follow the companies that you find in those industries on social media because they post stuff about it and what they're doing all the time. And it's, often really interesting. Um, I just said that there's lots of them, and I literally can't think of any apart from Transport Evolved right now. That's the only thing I'm seeing in my head. But yeah, there are lots of them if you go looking for them. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Just before you leave, I do not have a Facebook account. If you see a Facebook account that's me, it's a scam. Don't interact with it at all. I am on social media. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram. My name is Jaynemesis on both of them. The Discord has, I'm sure, been liberally shared during this stream, so you can join the Discord as well. My website is jaynemesis.com. That pretty much covers it. I think obviously you can find me on eToro, etoro.com/people/Jaynemesis. And I have a YouTube as well. My YouTube is also Jaynemesis, and this video will be put up on YouTube as well afterwards if you want to watch it back. It will also remain available on Twitch for you to watch back too. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.